Chapter 161. 7 days passed. For 7 consecutive days, Chu Fengmian didn't sleep or rest. He traveled through the Holy Land in search of spirit medicines. The amount of spirit medicines Chu Fengmian had acquired was enough to fill half of his bag of holding. There were at least several hundred of them. During these 7 days, Chu Fengmian had a rough understanding of the general situation of the Holy Land. The Holy Land was actually an enormous mountain range, with countless other mountains within it. Chu Fengmian was currently in the outer region of the mountain range, and the spirit energy in the Holy Land was so dense that it came from the depths of the mountain range. The closer one got to the depths of the mountain range, the denser the spirit energy was. Chu Fengmian also understood why there weren't many people in the area. Most martial artists would go to the depths of the mountain range in search of the denser spirit energy. The various good fortune in the Holy Land could only be found in the depths of the mountain range. Therefore, it was only natural that Chu Fengmian would go there. However, ever since Chu Fengmian had arrived in the Holy Land, the richly lush monument in his mind was no longer as quiet as it had been. In fact, it seemed to have awakened. For some reason, the rich lush steel had awoken. Could it be that this Holy Land has something to do with Grand Emperor Rich Lush? Frowning, Chu Fengmian summoned the rich lush steel. The rich lush steel didn't want to acknowledge Chu Fengmian as its master. Given Chu Fengmian's current level of strength, there was nothing he could do about it. However, although the rich lush steel didn't want to be controlled by Chu Fengmian, it didn't seem to have any intention of rebelling. It had always been hidden within Chu Fengmian, and if he wanted to summon it, he could do so. As soon as the rich lush steel appeared, Chu Fengmian could sense a desire within it. It was a desire that led Chu Fengmian to a certain direction. It was the very center of the Holy Land, where the spirit energy was the densest. Just where is this rich lush steel taking me? I can't believe he woke up from his slumber. The rich lush steel was personally created by Grand Emperor Rich Lush. It must have sensed the aura of Grand Emperor Rich Lush, which is why it woke up. This Holy Land is located in the Kingdom of Martial Victory, which means it must have something to do with Grand Emperor Rich Lush. Only someone on the level of Grand Emperor Rich Lush would be able to set up warding spells like that. Chu Fengmian thought to himself and analyzed the situation bit by bit. If it really does have something to do with Grand Emperor Rich Lush, then maybe I can use the Rich Lush steel to get some of the treasures in the Holy Land. Anything left behind by Grand Emperor Rich Lush is nothing to take lightly. If I can get it, I'll definitely reach a new level of power. Chu Fengmian said coldly in his heart. If this Holy Land had really been created by Grand Emperor Rich Lush, then Chu Fengmian would most likely be the one to acquire the treasures. After all, he had the Rich Lush steel, which meant that he had inherited the core teachings and doctrines of Grand Emperor Rich Lush. Even if it weren't for Grand Emperor Rich Lush's treasure storehouse, Chu Fengmian would still want to get his hands on some of the other treasures in this Holy Land. After all, the more good fortune he came across, the stronger he would become. Go! Thinking up to this point, Chu Fengmian didn't hesitate at all. His figure flickered, and he quickly ran in the direction indicated by the abundant lush monument. The mountain range seemed to stretch on endlessly. Even with Chu Fengmian's speed, it took him 2 hours to reach the very heart of the mountain range. The spirit energy here was many times denser than it was on the outside. A single day of cultivation here was equivalent to 100 days of bitter cultivation outside. As Chu Fengmian proceeded along, he saw numerous scars left behind by martial artists who had fought with each other. There were even large craters in the ground. It was impossible to say how many martial artists had perished in the fighting. In this Holy Land, it was common for people to kill each other. The slightest disagreement could result in mutual slaughter. There were no restrictions, and everyone was free to do as they pleased. In this Holy Land, the only thing that mattered was strength. If you were strong enough, you could get whatever you wanted. If you weren't strong enough, you would die. We found this 1,000-leaf spirit grass first, elder brothers, Chu Fengmian said. Humph. You little brats from the Institute of Martial Victory dare to oppose the Candle Flame Society? Screw off. The Candle Flame Society will take this 1,000-leaf spirit grass. Chu Fengmian heard a voice in his ear. Chu Fengmian furrowed his brows when he heard the voice. It was another fight. He originally didn't want to bother with them, but one of the voices was extremely familiar to Chu Fengmian. It was someone Chu Fengmian was very familiar with. That made him move, and he still walked in the direction of the voice. Brat, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and take the initiative to offer the 1,000-leaf spirit grass to our elder brother Yan Xian. Then, we'll let you live. Otherwise, all of you will die here today. Chu Fengmian glanced over and saw two groups of people standing on both sides of the 1,000-leaf spirit grass. One of them was dressed in red and there were more than 10 of them. They were the disciples of the Candle Flame Society that Chu Fengmian had seen before. Yan Xian was also among them. He was obviously the leader of this group of Candle Flame Society's disciples. On the other side, there were 4 young martial artists, 2 males and 2 females. They seemed to be the disciples of the Institute of Martial Victory. It's them? Chu Fengmian was surprised when he saw the 4 disciples of the Institute of Martial Victory. The 4 of them were the ones that Chu Fengmian had met in the barbaric mountain range. Hao Lan, Mo Changhen, Yun Jialan and Yu Zhanqing. Chu Fengmian had teamed up with them in the barbaric mountain range and obtained one of the Emperor Luan grasses. That Emperor Luan grasses was still lying quietly in Chu Fengmian's storage bag. Chu Fengmian had tried to find them when he came to the Institute of Martial Victory, but he was told that they had gone to a secret place to cultivate. He didn't expect that the 4 of them would come to the sacred ground. The 4 of them had reached the Divine Sea Realm. They had great aptitude and each of them had obtained a stalk of Emperor Luan grasses. After consuming it, their aptitude became even more terrifying. In such a short period of time, they had already reached the Divine Sea Realm. However, it seemed that the 4 of them had encountered quite a bit of trouble. Fellow senior brothers of the Candle Flame Society, the Institute of Martial Victory has a good relationship with the Candle Flame Society. It's unreasonable for us to snatch it. One of them walked out. It was Mo Changhen. He frowned as he spoke. Mo Changhen was the strongest among the 4 of them. He had reached the LV3 Divine Sea Realm. Chapter 162. What a joke. Who wants to be on good terms with your Wuxing Academy? Today, our senior brother Yan Xian will take the 1,000 leaves spiritual grass. If you know what's good for you, kneel down and offer it to him. That way, you can avoid death. An eagle-nosed man from the Candle Flame sect laughed out loud. Chu Fengmian remembered this eagle-nosed man. He was a martial artist from the Candle Flame sect called Yan Mei. Yan Mei sized up Mo Changhen and the other 3. Suddenly, his eyes noticed Yu Zhanqing and Yun Jialan, who were hiding at the back of the group. Yan Mei's eyes revealed a hint of evilness as he said, "Ha ha ha, this young master is bored in this broken saint land. You're Mo Changhen, right? How about this? You don't have to kneel down today, but you only need to hand over the 2 girls behind you." What? Mo Changhen originally wanted to talk to the Candle Flame sect's disciples, but after hearing Yan Mei's words, his face changed. Hand over Yu Zhanqing and Yun Jialan? With Yan Mei's evilness, if Yu Zhanqing and Yun Jialan fell into his hands, it would be like a wolf entering a tiger's den. Impossible. Let's go. Mo Changhen shouted and prepared to leave with the others. Although the 1,000 leaves spiritual grass was important, it was not impossible to give it up. Want to leave? What a joke. Without our senior brother Yan Xian's words, let's see who dares to leave. Yan Mei sneered. His figure suddenly moved and stood in front of Mo Changhen's group. With a wave of his hand, more than 10 Candle Flame sect's disciples immediately surrounded Mo Changhen and the other 3. Hand over the 2 girls and this young master will let you go. If you don't even think about going back alive today. Yan Mei said coldly. He did not hide the threat in his words. In this saint land, even if I kill all of you, the Wuxing Academy will not know about it. A wise man submits to circumstances. You know what to do. Yan Mei laughed. Mo Changhen was the strongest among the 4, but he was only at the 3rd level of the Divine Sea Realm. Hao Lan, Yun Jialan and Yu Zhanqing were only at the second level of the Divine Sea Realm. The weakest of the Candle Flame sect disciples present was at the Divine Sea Realm. Dealing with the four of them was a piece of cake. Not to mention that Xian Yan was at the peak of the Spirit Sea Realm. Even if they wanted to escape, they had no chance at all. Yan Mei, there's no need to talk nonsense with them. If they don't agree, just kill them. Yan Xian said impatiently. There was a hint of desire in his eyes. Hurry up and bring those two women over. Yes. Yan Mei hurriedly nodded and sneered at Mo Changhen. You all have seen it too. Senior brother Yan Xian is getting impatient from waiting. If you still don't agree, we'll have to attack. Senior brother Mo, let's fight them. Even if we die, we can't let senior sister Yu and senior sister Yin fall into their hands. Hao Lan roared furiously, and the innate wind spirit suddenly condensed. Get out of my way. In an instant, the natural wind spirit engulfed everything. Immediately, the surrounding Candle Flame sect disciples were forced to take a step back. They did not expect Hao Lan to be able to erupt with such frightening power. Useless resistance. Yan Mei's eyes were filled with disdain when she saw Hao Lan's attack. She suddenly attacked, and a ball of flame condensed, turning into a flaming longsword and slashing at Hao Lan. Die! The flaming longsword cut through the air, and the surrounding air became extremely hot. Yan Mei's realm was at the 5th level of the Spirit Sea Realm. With a swing of her sword, Hao Lan's innate wind spirit was easily broken. Boundless everlasting hatred. A sharp sword suddenly appeared. Mo Changhen suddenly drew his sword and slashed at Yan Mei, clashing with the flaming longsword. This sword technique was clearly much more profound than Yan Mei's sword technique. However, there was still a huge gap between their realms. Mo Changhen's sword technique could not make up for the gap of 2 realms. Another one who wants to die. Yan Mei sneered when she saw Mo Changhen's attack. Since you want to die first, I'll kill you first. Flame of the sky. An unusual green flame suddenly condensed in Yan Mei's palm. The temperature of the flame was terrifyingly high. The surrounding Candle Flame sect's disciples all took a step back. Even they could not withstand the temperature of the flame. Die! Mo Changhen's sword was easily incinerated by the green flames. Even the tip of his sword was incinerated by the green flames. You dare to resist us with such strength? Candle Flame sect, you're courting death. Yan Mei laughed when he saw that Mo Changhen was forced to retreat. He looked at Yun Jialan and Yu Zhanqing and waved his hand, instantly dispelling their attacks. Come here. Following senior brother Yan Xian is much better than being an inner disciple of Wu Sheng Academy. Yan Mei laughed, and immediately reached out to grab Yu Zhanqing. Get lost. The moment Yan Mei attacked, a sword light suddenly fell from the sky. This ray of sword light appeared without a sound. With a swoosh, the sword slashed out. Before Yan Mei could react, he felt a sharp pain on his arm. His right hand was cut off by the sword. A figure landed in front of Mo Changhen and the rest. Who is it? How dare you meddle in our Candle Flame sect's business? Are you tired of living? Yan Mei roared loudly. Although he could recover from having his hand cut off by a sword with spiritual medicine, the great pain of losing a single hand caused him to go crazy. Meddle in our business? I'm going to meddle in today's matter. That figure was Chu Fengmian. He could not bear it any longer when he saw Yan Mei attack. Even if Chu Fengmian did not know Mo Changhen and the rest, Chu Fengmian would not allow these Candle Flame sect's disciples to bully others in front of him. What was the difference between them and those devils? It's you? Chu Fengmian? How dare you meddle in our Candle Flame sect's business with your body refinement realm cultivation? When Yan Mei heard Chu Fengmian's voice, she suddenly realized who the figure in front of her was. Her face was filled with surprise, and she said greedily, I didn't expect you to meddle in our business in the sacred ground. Your Wu Sheng Academy's crown prince has put a bounty of 100,000 contribution points on you. Since you're here, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Heaven scorching flame. Green flames gathered once again. The heaven-scorching flame was a high profound rank martial skill, and it was Yan Mei's strongest move. Chapter 163. You want to exchange my head for contribution points? I wonder if you have the life to do it. Sky-scorching flame? Such a puny flame dares to be called sky-scorching? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with disdain as he faced the azure flame that swept over. The flame that everyone was afraid of seemed to have no meaning in front of Chu Fengmian. Such a puny flame? Break! The profound azure sword spun in Chu Fengmian's hand and instantly turned into a sword edge as he suddenly stabbed over. The azure flame was instantly shattered by Chu Fengmian's sword edge. The fierce sword edge swept over the flames as it pierced towards Yan Mei. Chu Fengmian had no interest in sparing Yan Mei's life. Senior brother Yan Xian, save me! Yan Mei hurriedly shouted when he saw Chu Fengmian's sword piercing over. He could tell that Chu Fengmian's strength far surpassed his as he was actually able to shatter his flame with a single sword strike. Such strength wasn't something that a martial artist in the 7th level of the body refinement realm could achieve. Audacious! Chu Fengmian, you actually dare to injure a disciple of our candle flame sect? Are you tired of living? Yan Xian, who was standing to the side, suddenly spoke with rage. A golden flame suddenly condensed on his body and turned into a fire dragon that roared as it charged towards Chu Fengmian. Scarlet Flame Dragon. This fire dragon let out a series of roars, as if it had really condensed into a real dragon. However, such a dragon roar was extremely laughable in Chu Fengmian's ears. This fire dragon only had dragon might, but it didn't have dragon might. At best, it could only be considered as a worm, yet it dared to call itself a dragon. I'll let you experience what a true dragon might is. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly as he madly circulated the power of the battle dragon art and condensed it on the profound azure sword. Instantly, a ray of sword chi was shot out. This ray of sword chi also turned into a sword chi dragon that charged towards Yan Xian. Although the two dragons were dragon-shaped, the fire dragon condensed by Yan Xian was like a worm in front of the sword chi dragon condensed by Chu Fengmian. It did not have the nobility of a dragon. Once it was compared, its true form would naturally be revealed. There were many martial skills in the world that liked to condense dragon shapes because dragons were the strongest creatures in the world. Once a martial skill was condensed into a dragon shape, it would be able to borrow the dragon's might and its power would be stronger than ordinary martial skills. However, this kind of borrowing power was only in the form of a dragon. It did not possess any dragon might. Only Chu Fengmian possessed the ancient era's war dragon blood essence. Thus, the martial skills he unleashed were truly true dragon martial skills. Boom! The two long dragons collided in the air. In an instant, the scarlet fire dragon was devoured. One real and one fake. Once they exchanged blows, victory and defeat would be decided in an instant. Impossible. This scarlet flame dragon is Senior Yan Xian's strongest martial skill. Even if a wind-controlling realm warrior were to come here, they wouldn't be able to resolve it easily. They could only dodge it. How could Chu Fengmian's sword energy devour the scarlet flame dragon? Countless candle flame sect's disciples exclaimed in shock. Their faces were filled with indescribable shock. Yan Xian had once used this scarlet flame dragon against a wind-controlling realm warrior. Even the wind-controlling realm warrior did not dare to face it head-on and could only dodge it. Such a powerful martial skill was actually easily resolved by Chu Fengmian. Especially when Chu Fengmian was only at the 7th level of the body refinement realm. Even if a 7th level body refinement realm warrior was monstrous, how could he unleash such a terrifying sword attack? If I want to kill someone, no one can stop me. After forcing Xian Yan back, Chu Fengmian sneered. His figure flashed and he arrived beside Yan Mei. When Yan Mei saw Chu Fengmian approaching, her face was filled with fear. She did not expect that Xian Yan's attack would be easily resolved by Chu Fengmian. The backlash from the Scarlet Flame Dragon was enough to make Yan Xian unable to use his spiritual energy for 3 seconds. These 3 seconds were enough for Chu Fengmian to kill Yan Mei. Chu Fengmian, if you dare to kill Yan Mei, our candle flame sect will not rest until you die. Yan Xian roared. Yan Mei was the disciple with the highest aptitude among this batch of newcomers in the candle flame sect, other than Yan Xian. She was also highly anticipated by the higher-ups of the candle flame sect. If Yan Mei really died in the sacred land, it would be a great loss to the candle flame sect. Are you threatening me? Chu Fengmian looked at Yan Xian and said coldly. That's right. If you dare to kill Yan Mei, our candle flame sect will not rest until you die. In the sacred land, there are some seniors in our candle flame sect. Their strength is far from what you can imagine. Yan Xian said coldly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Not to mention, you're only one person today. How can you be a match for more than 10 of us? If you dare to kill Yan Mei, don't think that you can escape unscathed today. Is that so? Whether I can escape unscathed has never been decided by others. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. The tip of his sword flashed and a line of blood appeared on Yan Mei's throat. Then, Yan Mei's figure fell to the ground. Threat? Threats were useless to Chu Fengmian. What he hated the most in his life was being threatened by others. Since he had decided to kill Yan Mei, even a saint expert wouldn't be able to stop Chu Fengmian. Damn it! Chu Fengmian, don't think that you can leave alive today. Yan Xian's face changed when he saw Yan Mei's death. He was so angry that his face turned red. Disciples of the Candle Flame sect, listen up. Attack together and kill this brat. Yes. The remaining dozen or so Candle Flame sect disciples attacked at the same time. In an instant, countless flames were condensed together. Kill! Cold Moon Heavenly Ice. When the disciples of the Candle Flame sect attacked, a white figure suddenly descended from the sky and landed beside Chu Fengmian. A sharp icicle suddenly shot out and forced the disciples of the Candle Flame sect to retreat. It's you? Chu Fengmian's face changed when he saw the figure that suddenly appeared beside him. It was as if he hadn't expected it. The white figure was Hanueli, whom Chu Fengmian had met at the entrance of the sacred land and thanked him once. Hanueli, how dare you interfere with the matters of our Candle Flame sect? Yan Xian took a glance and also recognized Hanueli. This brat killed our disciples today. He must die today. If you're going to stick your nose into this, don't think that you can leave alive today. No, I won't kill you today. Yan Xian's eyes were filled with lust when he looked at Hanueli. Chapter 164. Looking at Hanueli, Chu Fengmian was surprised. Why did the number one beauty of the victorious martial country suddenly help him? You don't need to provoke this trouble. I alone am enough to deal with this group of people. Chu Fengmian quietly said to Hanueli. Although he didn't know why Hanueli helped him, this trouble had nothing to do with Hanueli. Chu Fengmian wasn't willing to involve others. Yan Xian's strength isn't as simple as it seems. Hanueli calmly said. Her voice was like snow that had just melted. It was gentle, but also somewhat cold. You helped me once before. This time, consider it as me returning the favor. What? Chu Fengmian was startled. Helped Hanueli once? Chu Fengmian had only purposely used the battle dragon art to kill the heart demon when the saint had used the killing heart demon art to disturb Chu Fengmian. The battle dragon art had also destroyed the heart demons of the surrounding people. Although it was said to be a help, it was actually an unintentional action by Chu Fengmian. He only did it to deal with the chosen, but Hanueli actually thought that he had helped her once. This favor wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. At the very least, with Yan Xian's character, he wouldn't remember Chu Fengmian's kindness. It was already good enough that he thanked Chu Fengmian. It was also the first time that Chu Fengmian met someone like Hanueli, who actually chose to help him at this time. Chu Fengmian actually felt familiar with this character. Our ancestors taught us to repay kindness. You helped me once, so it's time for me to return the favor. Hanueli coldly said as her eyes stared at the Candle Flame sect's disciples present. Whoever wants to kill him will have to go through me first. Hanueli, it looks like you're really courting death. If all the disciples of the cold snow pavilion were here, perhaps this young master would be a little afraid. Do you think you're a match for our candle flame sect's disciples by yourself? Many ants could bite an elephant to death. Furthermore, these candle flame sect disciples all had the strength of the divine sea realm. They were not ants. Besieged by more than a dozen disciples of the spirit sea realm, even a warrior of the wind-controlling realm might not be able to fight 1 against 10. One more Hanueli was nothing. Yan Xian's eyes revealed an evil thought. This young master has always wanted to have a taste of Wu Shen country's #1 beauty. Today, I'm finally getting my wish. Kill this Chu Fengmian for me first, then this young master will personally deal with this Hanueli. Yes. Countless candle flame sect's disciples heard the order and suddenly attacked. Countless martial skills blasted towards Chu Fengmian. Brother Chu, leave quickly. You're no match for them. Mo Changhan hurriedly shouted from behind. Chu Fengmian was here to save them. Although he knew that Chu Fengmian's strength was miraculous, he was only at the 7th level of the body refinement realm. How could he fight against more than a dozen candle flame sect's disciples? With more than a dozen candle flame sect's disciples attacking together, even a warrior at the peak of the divine sea realm would be killed in one move. Don't worry, just remember to stay far away. These trash can't hurt me. Chu Fengmian looked at Mo Changhan and said confidently. Mo Changhan couldn't refute such an arrogant statement. Back in the barbaric mountain range, he had seen too many legends about Chu Fengmian. This time, he subconsciously believed Chu Fengmian's words. You're about to die and you still dare to be arrogant. A candle flame sect's disciple roared in anger. Even Xian Yan didn't dare to underestimate their combined strength. Chu Fengmian actually said that they couldn't hurt him. He was simply arrogant to the extreme. In terms of one-on-one combat, the candle flame sect's disciples naturally couldn't be stronger than Chu Fengmian, who had just killed Yan Mei in one move. But now, there were more than a dozen of them. With more than a dozen of them joining forces, they definitely surpassed Chu Fengmian in terms of strength. Let's attack together and destroy the Sea of Fire. More than a dozen candle flame sect's disciples attacked together and formed a huge sea of fire in front of them. It was as if no living thing could survive in this sea of fire. Seeing Chu Fengmian fall into the sea of fire, Hanueli panicked. Even she would be severely injured if she didn't die in such a sea of fire. Just when she wanted to help, Yan Xian, who was beside her, had already attacked. Little beauty, your opponent is me. As he said those words, Yan Xian also sent forth a burst of flame to attack. Hanueli pulled out her sword and countless ice crystals danced in the sky. The two figures intertwined in the air and fought. Ha ha ha, what genius of the Martial Victory Academy's new generation, the second crown prince. Didn't he still die in the hands of our candle flame sect today? A body-refining realm martial artist is actually so arrogant. He even said that we can't hurt him. He's simply digging his own grave. Countless candle flame sect's disciples looked at Chu Fengmian in the sea of fire and laughed crazily. But their laughter didn't last for long. A scarlet sword light suddenly shot out from the sea of fire. The power of the crimson sword light was extremely terrifying. The 3 candle flame sect disciples standing at the front were instantly sliced in half at the waist. Then, their bodies were directly turned into ashes. Isn't it? You bunch of trash, see if you can hurt me. Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly jumped out from the sea of fire. The remaining candle flame sect's disciples looked over and saw that Chu Fengmian's body wasn't injured at all. Impossible. Even a wind-resisting realm martial artist can't be unharmed in the sea of fire. Monster. He's really a monster. He's simply inhuman. Countless candle flame sect's disciples shouted crazily. They couldn't believe their eyes. But their shock wasn't limited to this. Suddenly, a candle flame sect's disciple saw the scarlet sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. Scarlet flame sword. It's our candle flame sect's scarlet flame sword. This shout caused an uproar in the surroundings. The scarlet flame sword was one of the 3 divine weapons of the candle flame sect. It was a weapon that countless candle flame sect's disciples dreamed of. Now, it actually appeared in Chu Fengmian's hands. Since you recognize this sword, then you can die in peace. Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with killing intent. All of you, die! Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's figure flashed. He grabbed the scarlet flame sword and slashed. Not good. Stop him. Chapter 165. The fire dragon was unleashed and the scorching flames burned everything as it roared. The fire dragon unleashed by the dozen candle flame sect's disciples was much stronger than Yan Xian's attack. These candle flame sect's disciples all cultivated the cultivation technique of the candle flame sect. Their coordination was flawless. A bunch of trash. Even if you work together, you're still trash. Break for me. Within Chu Fengmian's body, the power of the battle dragon art burst out. In the sacred ground, Chu Fengmian no longer had to hide his strength as he unleashed it with all his might. The tip of the scarlet flame sword suddenly slashed towards the fire dragon. The sword slashed out. The invincible heavy sword. The huge scarlet flame sword contained an extremely powerful force. Boom! A huge amount of spiritual energy trembled as a huge force swept through everything. The fire dragon was shattered by the sword. The dozen candle flame sect's disciples all took a few steps back as they spat out a mouthful of blood. What a terrifying force! More than a dozen divine sea realm candle flame sect's disciples aren't Chu Fengmian's opponent even when they work together. Countless candle flame sect's disciples shouted in disbelief. 1 against 10. Even a wind resistance realm expert wouldn't be able to do it. Even if Chu Fengmian wielded the scarlet flame sword, he wouldn't be able to unleash such a terrifying force. Scarlet flame sword. Suddenly, countless people's gazes fell on the scarlet flame sword. The scarlet flame sword before them was completely different from the scarlet flame sword before them. The runes on the scarlet flame sword had all been reforged. The 9 new runes that were carved on it were all augmented with strength. Crazy! Which lunatic actually reforged the runes on the scarlet flame sword and augmented it with strength? Is this something that a human can use? With this kid's strength, using the scarlet flame sword once is already his limit. Don't be afraid, he doesn't have much spiritual energy left. Some candle flame sect's disciples shouted. The amount of spiritual energy required to use such a powerful sword was an astronomical figure. No matter how strong Chu Fengmian was, he was still only at the 7th level of the body refinement realm. At this level, he could at most use the scarlet flame sword to strike once, and that was already his limit. Chu Fengmian's strongest sword had been blocked by them. Chu Fengmian should not have much strength left. He was like an arrow at the end of its flight. No more spiritual energy. Hearing the words of the candle flame sect's disciples, Chu Fengmian revealed a mocking smile. If it were any other warrior, the disciples of the candle flame sect were right. Even a divine sea realm warrior would find it extremely difficult to wield the scarlet flame sword and use it once. With one sword strike, all of his spiritual energy would be sucked dry. However, this was only true for other martialists. Chu Fengmian's divine veins could replenish his spiritual power in an instant even if his spiritual power was depleted. Chu Fengmian had already replenished all the spiritual energy he had just consumed. He communicated with the earth veins and continuously absorbed spiritual power from them. It could be said that the earth veins of the 9 regions all belonged to Chu Fengmian. It was almost endless. Even the spiritual power of hundreds of millions of saints couldn't compete with Chu Fengmian. All of you, die! Chu Fengmian laughed loudly. The scarlet flame sword was activated again. Another sword strike was launched. The power of this sword strike was much stronger than the previous one. A sword chi that was as tall as a person was launched. Immediately, another 2 disciples of the candle flame sect died under Chu Fengmian's sword chi. Impossible. How can his spiritual energy be so strong? Is he still human? Could it be that this kid is actually a wind-controlling realm expert and has concealed his strength? Divine Sea Realm warriors couldn't wield the Scarlet Flame Sword a second time, unless it was a Divine Sea Realm genius like Yan Xian. However, even Yan Xian wouldn't be able to wield the sword a second time so easily. Looking at Chu Fengmian's current appearance, it seemed like it was extremely easy. Wielding the sword twice consecutively was extremely easy for Chu Fengmian. All of you, die! After killing the 2 disciples of the Candle Flame sect, Chu Fengmian's figure didn't stop. His figure flickered and appeared beside the disciples of the Candle Flame sect. Every slash of his sword was able to kill several disciples of the Candle Flame sect. In a few breaths of time, more than a dozen disciples of the Candle Flame sect had died under Chu Fengmian's sword. Chu Fengmian's figure moved and flew into the sky. With a slash of his sword, he separated the battle between Yan Xian and Han Yueli. He looked at Yan Xian and revealed a cold smile. How about it? Is there anyone else who wants to take Chu Fengmian's head to receive contribution points? Those trash, so what if they die? They're just wasting resources if they don't die. Yan Xian looked at the disciples of the Candle Flame sect that were killed by Chu Fengmian with a cold gaze. Yan Xian never cared about the lives of the disciples of the Candle Flame sect. Right now, his eyes were completely focused on the scarlet flame sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. No wonder the Crown Prince hates you to the bone and is extremely fearful of you. Your strength is indeed much more terrifying than we imagined. Yan Xian looked at Chu Fengmian and said. But right now, you're relying on this scarlet flame sword. Without this scarlet flame sword, you're nothing. You don't even have the qualifications to fight with me. Oh? Chu Fengmian looked at Yan Xian with a teasing smile. This scarlet flame sword is now in my hands. I'd like to see how you're going to snatch it from me. Naive brat. This scarlet flame sword is one of the 3 divine weapons of our Candle Flame sect. It has long been controlled by our secret technique. Do you really think that you can control it? Yan Xian's eyes revealed a trace of greed. Since you've brought him to the sacred ground, then return it to its rightful owner. 7-colored flame rune. The 7-colored flame rune on Yan Xian's forehead suddenly dissolved. 7-colored flames suddenly appeared on his body. Under the 7-colored flames, the surrounding space seemed to be on the verge of being roasted. This flame actually faintly matched with the spiritual energy of the Scarlet Flame Sword. Scarlet Flame Sword. As one of the 3 divine weapons of the Candle Flame sect, you shouldn't be in the hands of an outsider. Come back. Yan Xian roared. Instantly, the Scarlet Flame Sword's body trembled as if it was about to break free from Chu Fengmian's hands. Not good, quickly take back the Scarlet Flame Sword. This Scarlet Flame Sword has the secret technique of the Candle Flame sect. Unless it's controlled by a disciple of the Candle Flame sect, it will be taken away by other cultivators. Han Yueli hastily said from the side. Chapter 166. With Yan Xian's strength, even if Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli joined forces, they wouldn't be his opponent. You want to take it back now? It's too late. Once the secret technique is activated, the Scarlet Flame Sword will belong to me. Hearing Han Yueli's voice, Yan Xian laughed arrogantly. Little beauty, wait for me to kill this brat first, then we can play together. Really? The corner of Chu Fengmian's mouth revealed a disdainful smile. No one can take away the spiritual weapon in my hands. Suppress. Chu Fengmian indifferently spat out a word, and a dragon's aura suddenly appeared. The Scarlet Flame Sword in Chu Fengmian's hand stopped trembling all of a sudden. The Scarlet Flame Sword was indeed engraved with a seal, but the Scarlet Flame Sword had been refined by Chu Fengmian a long time ago. Especially the Scarlet Flame Sword, which had been refined by Chu Fengmian with his blood, the seal within it had been completely destroyed. Only Chu Fengmian could control the Scarlet Flame Sword. Still not enough? Then I'll take action. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly, and his figure moved, immediately rushing towards Yan Xian. The Scarlet Flame Sword in his hand suddenly slashed out. The moment the sword was slashed out, the surrounding space trembled slightly. This was something that could only be done by someone who was close to the wind-resisting realm. Chu Fengmian's current full-strength attack was close to the wind-resisting realm. The space trembled, and even Xian Yan's figure involuntarily retreated, avoiding the sharp edge of the scarlet flame sword. "All right. Since I can't control the scarlet flame sword now, I'll kill you first. Then I'll take the scarlet flame sword back." Xianyan roared, and the seven-colored flame on his body suddenly turned into a huge vortex. Within the vortex, there was actually a huge eyeball blinking. The moment the eyeball suddenly condensed, there was an endless pressure, causing Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli to resist it. Not good. This was the Brilliant Heaven Eye. Once you are seen by the eyes of the ancient Brilliant Clan's strongest, your body will be burned by the seven-colored flame and you won't even be able to escape. Han Yueli exclaimed when he saw the Brilliant Heaven Eye condense. The flames shot out by the Brilliant Heaven Eye were almost impossible to escape. No matter how fast a person was, how could they be faster than the eye? The moment the Brilliant Heaven Eye looked at Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli, two bursts of flames transformed into two fire dragons, roaring as they charged. Brilliant Heaven Eye. The primordial Brilliant Tribe is indeed powerful. However, with your thin bloodline, it's nothing. Chu Fengmian said disdainfully. Sword. As soon as the word sword appeared, a shocking sword intent suddenly erupted from Chu Fengmian's body. This sword intent was definitely much more terrifying than any sword cultivator in victorious martial nation. What? Han Yueli, who was standing beside Chu Fengmian, was shocked when he saw the sword intent that erupted from Chu Fengmian. Such a terrifying sword intent was something that even some sword saints might not be able to unleash. What kind of monster was Chu Fengmian? How could he possess such a terrifying sword intent? The sword intent seemed to have reached the pinnacle. Although the power that erupted from it did not reach the pinnacle of sword Dao, it was not because Chu Fengmian's sword intent was insufficient. It was because it was restricted by Chu Fengmian's strength. The sword intent that I cultivated in my previous life. Let me test it on you this time. Chu Fengmian laughed. Reversal of heaven and earth. Chu Fengmian swung the scarlet flame sword in his hand. A huge sword qi that was 20 to 30 meters long instantly slashed towards Yan Xian. The speed of the sword qi was as fast as lightning. In an instant, it had arrived beside Yan Xian. Bang! One of Yan Xian's arms was completely severed by the sword qi. This was because Yan Xian's reaction speed was extremely fast. If his reaction speed was a little slower, Yan Xian would have already been cut in half by Chu Fengmian. Brilliant Heaven Eye. Kill him for me. Yan Xian's heart was filled with great pain when his arm was cut off. It made him even more furious. The enormous Brilliant Heaven Eye in the sky also sensed Yan Xian's anger. An even more enormous flame surged out. The monstrous sea of fire immediately blocked in front of Chu Fengmian. Get lost. Chu Fengmian slashed out again with his sword. It was impossible for any other martial artist to continuously unleash such a powerful sword technique. However, Chu Fengmian possessed the divine pulse. It wouldn't be a problem for him to continuously unleash 100 of such sword techniques. Break! Chu Fengmian shouted. The sword qi cut through the sea of fire and soared into the sky, slashing at the Brilliant Heaven Eye. The huge whirlpool was cut into two halves, and the huge eyeball within it was instantly shattered. The Brilliant Heaven Eye, Yan Xian's strongest technique, was actually broken by Chu Fengmian. Damn it! How can there be such a monstrous martial artist? He's definitely not a human. He's already a monstrous genius. Yan Xian looked at Chu Fengmian and his face drastically changed. The Brilliant Heaven Eye was his strongest trump card. He revealed the Brilliant Heaven Eye to quickly kill Chu Fengmian and seize the Scarlet Flame Sword. But now, even the Brilliant Heaven Eye was easily slashed apart. How could he have any strength to resist? Run! There was only one word in Yan Xian's heart. Even Yan Xian's strongest trump card wasn't Chu Fengmian's opponent. If he didn't run now, what other choice did he have? His figure turned into a fiery red escape light and immediately fled into the mountain range. Chu Fengmian, just you wait. If the seniors of my Candle Flame sect know about the Scarlet Flame Sword, it'll be the time of your death. Yan Xian roared as he hastily fled. She wished she could explode all the spiritual power in her body to escape for her life. In the sacred ground, there were some candle flame sect's disciples who had reached the wind-resisting realm. As long as he could find them, they would be able to kill Chu Fengmian. As long as he could escape, Chu Fengmian would be a dead man sooner or later. Don't let him escape. Han Yueli's face changed. His hand moved and an azure sword was slashed out. Ice Lotus sword art? Seeing the sword, Chu Fengmian's eyes changed. He suddenly understood where he had seen Han Yueli's sword art. How can this Han Yueli know this sword art? Chu Fengmian frowned as he pondered. The azure sword turned into a string of ice lotuses in the air and turned into a sword qi that slashed towards Yan Xian. The sword slashed at Yan Xian's back. Damn it! Yan Xian was in pain, but his figure didn't stop. Chapter 167. Yan Xian turned into a streak of light and flew towards the center of the Sacred Land mountain range. The truly powerful disciples of the Sacred Land were all at the center of the Sacred Land mountain range. As long as the other experts of the Candle Flame sect sensed Yan Xian's aura, they would come to his aid. As long as any of the Candle Flame sect's disciples at the wind-controlling realm came, not to mention saving Yan Xian, they could even kill Chu Fengmian. Therefore, he made a prompt decision and hurriedly flew away. In terms of strength, Yan Xian was indeed not Chu Fengmian's opponent. The scarlet flame sword in Chu Fengmian's hand had at least doubled his strength. But in terms of speed, Yan Xian had absolute confidence that Chu Fengmian would definitely not be able to catch up with him. Chase! Chu Fengmian's thoughts were immediately interrupted. His body moved and an illusory figure flashed past, chasing after the light that Yan Xian had transformed into. Although Han Yueli's swordsmanship was important, he had to kill Yan Xian first. There must be many powerful disciples of the Candle Flame sect in the Sacred Land. Those disciples who cultivated in the Sacred Land must be extremely powerful. If he let Yan Xian go today, it would be a big trouble for Chu Fengmian when the Candle Flame sect's disciples came to kill him. His cultivation had not reached the Divine Sea realm and he did not have the ability to fight with a wind-controlling realm cultivator. Chu Fengmian could still defeat a peak Divine Sea realm cultivator like Yan Xian. But if he encountered a wind-controlling realm cultivator, Chu Fengmian could only run. He did not even have the ability to fight back. You can't escape. Chu Fengmian looked at the streak of light in front of him and sneered. The phantom movement technique was pushed to the limit by Chu Fengmian. His speed was actually comparable to Yan Xian, who was at the peak of the Divine Sea realm. The two figures were rapidly traversing through the forest. Even Han Yueli, who was at the peak of the Divine Sea realm, could not catch up with the two of them and could only follow behind. How is this possible? After a few minutes, when Yan Xian thought that he had shaken off Chu Fengmian, he was shocked when he turned around. Chu Fengmian's figure was actually not shaken off. Instead, Chu Fengmian's speed was even faster than his. The distance between them was getting closer and closer. If that was the case, they would be able to catch up very soon. Yan Xian's escape light was actually not much slower than Chu Fengmian's. However, how could Yan Xian's spiritual energy compare to Chu Fengmian's? In just a few minutes, more than half of Yan Xian's spiritual energy had been consumed. The amount of spiritual energy consumed for every breath of this escape light was a huge number. Yan Xian was using his full strength to escape from Chu Fengmian. However, after a few minutes, his speed had already slowed down. However, Chu Fengmian's speed was still as fast as before. It was as if Chu Fengmian's spiritual energy was limitless. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two was less than 100 meters. You still want to escape? Stop right there. Chu Fengmian's eyes turned cold. The scarlet flame sword in his hand slashed out again. Scarlet sword qi engulfed the flames and charged towards Yan Xian. This scarlet-red sword energy swept through the flames, and it was like a monstrous sea of fire in the sky, dyeing the entire sky red. Damn it! Is his spiritual energy something a human can do? After chasing for so long, Chu Fengmian still had such abundant spiritual energy. Yan Xian cursed. At such a close distance, it was already impossible for him to dodge. Flame of the heavens. Yan Xian turned his head, and a flame condensed in his palm. He threw it towards the sword Qi, trying to disperse it. However, in almost an instant, the flames that Yan Xian shot out were scattered by the sword aura. Yan Xian was not Chu Fengmian's opponent even when he used his full strength, not to mention the current Yan Xian, who was already an arrow at the end of its flight. He did not even have 30% of his strength at his peak. The sword Qi cut through the flames, and directly slashed towards Yan Xian. Suddenly, a huge fire mark appeared on Yan Xian's body, and he fell to the ground. No! This young master is the one who inherited the 7-colored flame mark. My bloodline is incomparably noble. How can I die in such a place? How can I die in the hands of such a brat? Yan Xian continuously shouted. In the Candle Flame sect, he was a prodigy. In his opinion, in the entire Martial Victory Academy, only the Crown Prince, Ling Tian, was qualified to be his opponent. He never imagined that he would be defeated by a brat in the body refinement realm, and even be killed. Incomparably noble bloodline? Ever since you decided to become enemies with this Chu, it represented the day of your death. Chu Fengmian's lips curled into a cold smile. It's over. Chu Fengmian landed on the ground, and slashed out with his sword. Yan Xian's figure was instantly split into two, and a flame burned his corpse into ashes. Chu Fengmian raised his hand, and an interspatial pouch was taken out from the ashes. As a prodigy of the Candle Flame sect, Chu Fengmian naturally needed the wealth within. Yan Xian is dead? At this moment, Han Yueli, who had just caught up, said in disbelief as he looked at the pile of ashes on the ground. Yan Xian was known as a rare prodigy in the Candle Flame sect. Especially after activating the 7-colored fire mark, his bloodline was incomparably noble. In the entire Martial Victory country, he could be considered as one of the top prodigies. But today, he was actually killed by a body refinement realm cultivator. If this news were to spread, no one would believe it. That's right. Chu Fengmian nodded his head, and looked at Han Yueli with a smile. I still have to thank Miss Han for your help. Without your help, it wouldn't be so easy to kill Yan Xian. No, that Yan Xian was basically killed by you. I myself know best whether or not I contributed. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Han Yueli shook his head. His fight with Yan Xian could only delay Yan Xian. The one who defeated Yan Xian was Chu Fengmian, and the one who killed Yan Xian was still Chu Fengmian. So you weren't bluffing when you said you didn't need my help. It's actually true, looking at the pile of ashes, Han Yueli said in a daze. Previously, when Han Yueli attacked, Chu Fengmian had said that he alone was enough to deal with Yan Xian and the others. At that time, Han Yueli thought that Chu Fengmian was bluffing for the sake of his face. But now, it seemed that what Chu Fengmian said was indeed the truth. Even without her help today, Chu Fengmian was still enough to kill Yan Xian. There was no difference. Han Yueli had also heard of the rumors about Chu Fengmian. At that time, Han Yueli only thought that Chu Fengmian's reputation was mostly made up by the Martial Victory Academy. Chapter 168. Even the current number 1 genius of the Martial Victory Nation, the Crown Prince of the Martial Victory Institute, Zhi Lingtian, wasn't as terrifying as Chu Fengmian. Although Zhi Lingtian had soared to the heavens in the past, he wouldn't have been able to fight a peak Divine Sea Realm cultivator with his body refinement realm cultivation base. It was a miracle that only Grand Emperor Richlush could have pulled off if he were alive. Yan Xian isn't an expert, Chu Fengmian said calmly. The primordial brilliant clan was indeed powerful, but Yan Xian's thin bloodline was still far from the true primordial brilliant clan. Moreover, even the true primordial brilliant clan wasn't a match for the primordial war dragon. The primordial brilliant clan could only be considered as the elites among the primordial 100 clans. The primordial war dragon was the supreme overlord of that era. Therefore, Xianyan wasn't a big deal. It wasn't surprising that Chu Fengmian could kill him. Without the Scarlet Flame Sword, Chu Fengmian might have to use some tricks. However, with the Scarlet Flame Sword, killing Xian Yan was a piece of cake. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Han Yueli felt helpless. Yan Xian could be considered as one of the elites of this generation. Being able to become the leader of the Candle Flame sect, there was no need to doubt his strength. At least, Han Yueli knew that Yan Xian was stronger than her. Although he wouldn't lose to Yan Xian, he couldn't defeat Yan Xian either. If someone else said this, Han Yueli would definitely think that person was arrogant. However, since Chu Fengmian said it, Han Yueli couldn't refute it. Chu Fengmian had just killed Yan Xian with ease, so there was no way to refute his words. You must be careful after killing Yan Xian. Yan Xian is the disciple of the Candle Flame sect's leader. If the news of his death spreads, all the disciples of the Candle Flame sect in the sacred land will spare no effort to kill you. Han Yueli reminded from the side. Yan Xian's identity wasn't an ordinary disciple of the Candle Flame sect. The news of his death would definitely spread quickly. At the very least, Han Yueli knew that there were still a few core disciples of the Candle Flame sect in the sacred land. Those who were able to enter the core disciples of the four major sects were all martial artists whose strength had reached the wind-resisting realm. Although the peak of the Spirit Sea realm was only one realm away from the wind-controlling realm, as a warrior at the peak of the Spirit Sea realm, Han Yueli knew clearly how big the gap was. Encountering Yan Xian, Han Yueli could still be in an invincible position, but encountering any random wind-controlling realm martial artist, Han Yueli would definitely be defeated within 10 moves. Indeed. If I have not guessed wrongly, those Candle Flame sect's practitioners have already found out about Yan Xian's death. Chu Fengmian said in a low voice. I have to leave this place. A hint of hesitation flashed through Chu Fengmian's eyes, but he still opened his mouth. I wonder if Miss Han would like to travel together. There was something about this Han Yueli that Chu Fengmian was extremely concerned about. Chu Fengmian wanted to figure it out. All right. Now that Yan Xian has fallen, it's impossible for me to escape. Han Yueli nodded. The aura of Yan Xian's death was enough to tell who killed Yan Xian. This kind of deduction technique was not difficult for a wind-controlling realm martial artist. Let's go back first. Chu Fengmian did not escape immediately. Instead, with a flash of light, he returned to the place where the battle took place. I wonder how Big Brother Chu is doing. Looking at the direction where Chu Fengmian chased, Hao Lan muttered to herself. It was the second time. She did not expect Chu Fengmian to save her when she encountered danger for the second time. When she saw Chu Fengmian defeating Yan Xian and forcing Yan Xian to flee, Hao Lan could not believe it. In such a short period of time, they thought that their strength had progressed fast enough, but compared to Chu Fengmian, it was simply trash. They had just stepped into the Spirit Sea realm, but Chu Fengmian was already able to defeat a warrior at the peak of the Spirit Sea realm. Especially when Chu Fengmian was still in the body refining realm. Was it really possible for a martial artist to surpass more than 10 levels? The current Chu Fengmian was even more monstrous than the previous Chu Fengmian they saw. Don't worry. Don't you know Brother Chu's strength? Mo Changhen said calmly. He was clear about Chu Fengmian's means. Since he had chased after Yan Xian, it would not be difficult for Chu Fengmian to escape unscathed even if Yan Xian did not die. Everyone, it's been a long time. A voice could be heard all of a sudden, causing Mo Changhen and his crew to be excited. Big Brother Chu. Hao Lan said with surprise. Hao Lan, it's been a long time. You've already reached the Spirit Sea realm in such a short period of time. Chu Fengmian laughed loudly as he landed in front of everyone. He glanced at Hao Lan and said with a smile. Brother Chu, is Yan Xian dead? Mo Changhen looked at Chu Fengmian and asked. If Yan Xian did not die, he would always be a hidden danger. With Yan Xian's character, he would definitely take revenge in the future. Chu Fengmian was not afraid of him, but Yan Xian could kill the four of them with a single hand. Yes, I've killed Yan Xian. Chu Fengmian nodded and said. But you can't be careless. The disciples of the Candle Flame sect might have already known about this. It's better for you to hide in the outer region of the sacred grounds. With your strength, even if you don't encounter the disciples of the Candle Flame sect, you'll still be in great danger if you encounter the disciples of other sections. Chu Fengmian warned. The Spirit Sea realm was not low in the victorious martial country. But in the sacred grounds, those who could enter were all geniuses. None of them were not geniuses. The third level of the Spirit Sea realm was only the lowest level. They would also be in danger if they encountered the disciples of other sections. The four of them had some friendship with Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian did not want any accidents to happen to the four of them. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Mo Changhen could not help but reveal a bitter smile. They were in the Spirit Sea realm, so it was strange for Chu Fengmian, who was in the body refining realm, to warn them. But with Chu Fengmian's strength, he was qualified to do so. Being able to defeat Yan Qian, his strength was considered average in the sacred grounds. He would not be in danger if he encountered other martial artists. Actually, we were originally in the outer region. But there have been some changes in the sacred grounds recently, so we decided to go deeper. But we didn't expect to encounter Yan Qian and the others. Changes? You mean the mausoleum of Grand Emperor Richlush? Han Yueli, who was at the side, suddenly said. Yes, the mausoleum of Grand Emperor Richlush. Mo Changhen nodded in agreement. Chapter 169. Grand Emperor Richlush's Mausoleum. All of a sudden, Chu Fengmian realized why the Richlush stele had reacted as soon as he had entered. Of course, other than Grand Emperor Richlush, the Richlush stele shouldn't have reacted in any way. Clearly, it had sensed something, which was why it had awakened and led Chu Fengmian there. Only Grand Emperor Richlush, the founder of the victorious martial nation, could have created all of these things. Haven't there been rumors about Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum for a long time? Decades ago, someone discovered it, but it never caused much of a stir. Han Yueli said. It wasn't a secret, and all of the disciples from the four great sects knew about it. Decades ago, someone had discovered a mausoleum, which was later confirmed to be Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum. Grand Emperor Richlush was the founding patriarch of the martial victorious kingdom. According to the legends, he had coerced countless other powerful kingdoms into taking over the land he had created. The amount of wealth he had acquired was astronomical, and the rumor had it that his mausoleum contained wealth no less than the national treasury of an entire nation. Unfortunately, the mausoleum was covered with countless warding spells that were impossible to break. Therefore, although everyone knew that the mausoleum was filled with wealth, they could only see it, but not touch it. This piece of news was probably about to die down, so why would it suddenly cause such a huge commotion at this time? Senior Han, you only know part of the story. Mo Changhen looked at Han Yueli respectfully. He knew that Han Yueli was far more important than anyone else. Although he could do whatever he wanted with Chu Fengmian, he couldn't do that in front of Han Yueli. It's said that the key to open the tomb has appeared. Therefore, the tomb is already undergoing various changes. It's about to be opened. The core disciples of the Martial Victory Academy and the four sects have already joined forces to search for the entrance. Mo Changhen hurriedly explained. The key? Don't tell me it's the Richlush stele? Chu Fengmian said. If there was any clue about Grand Emperor Richlush, it would be the Richlush stele in Chu Fengmian's possession. That's right. It's said that the Richlush stele came into being, which led to all these changes in the tomb. Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Mo Changhen looked at Chu Fengmian in surprise. He didn't know where Chu Fengmian had gotten this information from. It's actually true. Although Chu Fengmian's expression didn't change when he heard this news, his heart was already in turmoil. Chu Fengmian had just come to the conclusion that the changes in Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum had something to do with the Richlush stele. After all, the Richlush stele was a spirit item personally created by Grand Emperor Richlush. If there was a key, it would definitely be the Richlush stele. Although the news of the Richlush stele's appearance has spread, no one knows who has it. However, everyone is guessing that someone must have brought the Richlush stele into the Holy Land. That's why such a change occurred. Mo Changhen continued. That's probably just a guess. the news of the rich lush steel's appearance must have been intentionally leaked by someone. Otherwise, there's no way they wouldn't know who it was. Hanweli said. Rumors like these can't be taken seriously. You guys should just focus on your cultivation and improve yourselves. That's the right way to go. You can't take a fortuitous encounter like this seriously. That's right. We'll return to the outskirts of the Holy Land and continue our cultivation. Imo Changhen said. Initially, he had been a little interested in the matter, but after meeting Yan Xian, he realized that there was nothing he could do. Without strength, everything was meaningless. The most important thing was to improve one's own strength. All right. Chu Fengmian nodded. It wasn't appropriate to get involved in a fight like this. With a thought, 4 jade talismans appeared in Chu Fengmian's hand. Each one of them contained the aura of an ancient battle dragon. These jade talismans were created by me. They contain the full power of my attack. When you're in danger, they'll explode with power. They'll help you out once. As Chu Fengmian spoke, he threw out the 4 jade talismans. The talismans merged with the bodies of Imo Changhen and the other 3. Now, Chu Fengmian gave them the 1,000 leaves spiritual grass and the 4 jade talismans as compensation. These jade talismans were enough to protect their lives from wind-resisting realm warriors. They were definitely more important than the 1,000 leaves spiritual grass. Thank you, Brother Chu. Thank you, Brother Chu. The 4 of them quickly expressed their gratitude. They had just witnessed Chu Fengmian's strength. These jade talismans were definitely their life-saving treasures. At least in the outskirts of the Holy Land, no one could kill them. All right, we'll leave now. Chu Fengmian glanced at Hanweli and nodded. 2 rays of light flew towards the depths of the Holy Land. Brother Chu's strength is not something we can catch up with. We thought we could catch up with him with the Emperor on grass. But now, it seems that we were too naive. Hao Lan looked at Chu Fengmian with admiration. One day, I'll catch up with Brother Chu. Hao Lan, don't be naive. With Brother Chu's current talent, only the Crown Prince can be his opponent. Yu Zhanqing said with a smile. Let's leave quickly. If we encounter another Yan Xian, no one will be able to save us this time. Yes. The 4 of them went in opposite directions, heading towards the outskirts of the Holy Land. Not long after Yan Xian left, a crimson figure arrived at the place where Yan Xian had fallen. That trash Yan Xian is dead. The crimson figure looked at his surroundings and frowned. Suddenly, he waved his hand, and a mirror appeared in front of him. The mirror showed the scene from before. Chu Fengmian and Hanweli chased after Yan Xian and killed him. The Scarlet Flame Sword. His eyes were fixed on the Scarlet Flame Sword in Chu Fengmian's hand. The Scarlet Flame Sword appeared again, and was brought to the Holy Land by someone. If I can get the Scarlet Flame Sword, I'll have a place in the battle for rich lush great Emperor's tomb. I might even be able to suppress those people. The Scarlet Figure muttered to himself. Let's calculate where that kid is. He waved his hand again, and another water mirror image appeared. However, this time, what appeared in the image was the shadow of a dragon. Chapter 170. What? My divination technique has actually been broken by someone? Looking at the water mirror in front of him, the red figure said in shock. This divination technique was the unique ability of warriors above the wind-controlling realm. As long as one had the aura of a warrior, it was enough to divine his past in every move. But now, his divination had failed. I don't believe that a little guy in the body-refining realm can escape from my divination technique. The red figure roared angrily. The spiritual energy in his body was mobilized again, condensing a water mirror in front of him. But the moment the water mirror was condensed, it was completely broken. Boom! From the water mirror, a dragon's roar sounded. At the same time, a huge amount of spiritual energy suddenly burst out from the water mirror. It turned into a fist and smashed toward the red figure. What? The red figure did not expect such a sudden change. But after all, he was an expert in the wind-controlling realm. He immediately sensed the danger. In an instant, he came to his senses. A wave of spiritual energy was mobilized in his body, turning into a flame barrier, blocking in front of him. Bang! The fist smashed through. The flame barrier collapsed in an instant. After all, the flame barrier was condensed in a hurry by mobilizing spiritual energy. It could not exert half of its power. Faced with this punch, it was smashed immediately, but it was enough to dissolve most of the power. The remaining power smashed into the crimson figure and forced him to take a few steps back. He barely managed to stop himself as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Damn kid, I'm going to kill you. I'll kill you completely. In the Holy Land, even if there is no divination, I'll see where you can hide." The red figure roared angrily. As a warrior in the wind-controlling realm, he had never been schemed against to such an extent. Although this punch did not seriously injure him, it had aroused the anger in his heart. His body moved and immediately turned into an escape light and left. At the same time, on the other side, Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly stopped in the middle of flying. Hanueli, who was next to him, could not help but ask, "What happened?" "Someone came to calculate my location," Chu Fengmian said calmly. "What? Someone was calculating?" To be able to deduce the location of a martial artist, only martial artists whose realm has reached the wind-resisting realm can do it. Could it be that Yan Xian's death has already been known by a wind-resisting realm martial artist? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Hanueli exclaimed in shock. If a wind-resisting realm martial artist were to calculate their location and chase after them, it would be difficult for the two of them to escape. In that case, we'd better leave as soon as possible. Now that our location has been divined, there will be people coming very soon. Hanueli said nervously. She didn't want to face the pursuit of a wind-controlling realm expert. "It doesn't matter. I've already broken that person's calculations," Chu Fengmian said. "Do you know which martial artist that crimson figure is? That person's eyebrows and hair are all crimson red," Chu Fengmian said. Just now, Chu Fengmian had also discovered the scarlet figure's presence when it was trying to divine his location. Because of this, Chu Fengmian burst out his strength to break that person's calculations and wanted to take the opportunity to injure him severely. However, he was a wind-resisting realm martial artist after all. Chu Fengmian's attack only slightly injured him. If it was a peak divine sea realm martial artist, Chu Fengmian's punch just now would have seriously injured him even if he didn't die. This was the difference between the peak divine sea realm and the wind-resisting realm. Although there was only a difference of one realm, there was a huge difference in strength. Scarlet figure, scarlet figure? Could it be the young master of the Candle Flame sect? Young Master Yan Nan? Hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Hanueli said in surprise. Could it be that the person who just calculated your location is young Master Yan Nan? He is at the 5th level of the wind-resisting realm, and his strength is comparable to the 7th level of the wind-resisting realm. How could you break his calculations? Hanueli's words were also filled with disbelief. In the victorious Wu country, only the young master of the Candle Flame sect, young Master Yan Nan, could have such an appearance. It was said that young Master Yan Nan was born with the innate fire spirit body, and his entire body was scarlet red. His current realm had reached the 5th level of the wind-resisting realm. Let alone a body-refining realm martial artist, he could even calculate the location of a divine sea realm martial artist, or even some wind-resisting realm martial artists. Chu Fengmian actually said that he had just broken young Master Yan Nan's calculations. How could Hanueli not be surprised? Young Master Yan Nan, it's actually him. Chu Fengmian whispered to himself. Chu Fengmian had heard of this name before. In the victorious Wu country, there were leaders and outstanding people in the 4 major sections. This young Master Yan Nan was the #1 person in the younger generation of the Candle Flame sect. In terms of status, he was comparable to the crown prince of the victorious Wu Academy, Ling Tian. No wonder Chu Fengmian's sneak attack was easily resolved by him. It turned out that it was this person. Even his sneak attack on Chu Fengmian did not succeed. If he really faced young Master Yan Nan, Chu Fengmian would not even have the possibility to resist and would be killed. This young Master Yan Nan was definitely a great threat. However, now that Chu Fengmian had broken his calculations, young Master Yan Nan would not be able to find Chu Fengmian's whereabouts in a short period of time. This gave Chu Fengmian some time. As long as Chu Fengmian had the opportunity to condense the ancient battle dragon's blood essence and step into the divine sea realm, Chu Fengmian was confident that he would be able to fight young Master Yan Nan. There are indeed many experts in the sacred grounds. Chu Fengmian sighed in his heart. In the other 3 major sects in the victorious Wu Academy, there were also experts who were comparable to young Master Yan Nan in the sacred grounds. In the sacred grounds, Chu Fengmian's strength was still too weak. He could not even protect himself. He had to increase his strength as soon as possible. "Let's go," Chu Fengmian said to Han Yueli beside him. His body suddenly moved and turned into a ray of light, quickly flying away. Han Yueli's body also turned into a ray of light and followed behind. "Where are we going?" Han Yueli, who was at the side, asked doubtfully. From the look on Chu Fengmian's face, it seemed that he had already decided where to go. "We're going to the heart of the sacred grounds, the mausoleum of Grand Emperor Richlush." Chu Fengmian's mind was racing as he spoke. The mausoleum of Grand Emperor Richlush was definitely the greatest treasure trove in the sacred grounds. The best way to get stronger was to find good fortune. Chapter 171. Grand Emperor Richlush's Mausoleum? That's not the most dangerous place. Han Yueli frowned. Almost all of the experts in the Holy Land were gathered around the mausoleum, hoping to get a piece of it. Young Sir Flame South, who had been spying on Chu Fengmian, was most likely in the area as well. Wouldn't it be suicidal to go there now? Besides, no one knows for sure whether or not the news about Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum is really true. Going there now would be too much danger. Han Yueli couldn't help but say. It was indeed not worth it to take such a huge risk for a piece of news that he did not know was true or false. Instead of sitting around and waiting for death, why not take the initiative and look for some good fortune? Chu Fengmian said, his mind spinning. Obviously, he knew that the news about Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum being open was true. After all, he could sense it from the Richlush steel. But in front of Han Yueli, Chu Fengmian didn't dare to fully trust him. Therefore, he decided to change the subject. If we want to leave the Holy Land, we'll need at least half a year before the warding spells are activated. Even if we run, we won't be able to outrun young Sir Flame South. Chu Fengmian said. Why don't we look for an opportunity to break through? Either of us will have a chance to fight young Sir Flame South. Chu Fengmian's words were half true and half false. What was false was Chu Fengmian's reason, but what was true was his goal. Right now, Han Yueli and Chu Fengmian were like grasshoppers on a rope. At the very least, when it came to dealing with young Sir Flame South, they had the same goal. If they split up, young Sir Flame South would be able to pick them off one by one. If I can get some resources to break through to the wind control realm, then even if I can't defeat young Sir Flame South, I can at least protect myself. Han Yueli pondered after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. Oh? Han Yueli's words caused Chu Fengmian to reveal some surprise in his heart. Young Master Yan Nan's cultivation level is at the 5th level of the Imperial Wind Realm. His strength has reached the terrifying 7th level of the Imperial Wind Realm. Han Yueli is considered to have broken through the Imperial Wind Realm. He was only at the 1st level of the Imperial Wind Realm. In front of young Master Yan Nan, he was nothing. However, listening to Han Yueli's confidence, it seemed that she also had a unique method. Han Yueli was also one of the 4 great sects. As a true genius of the Cold Snow School, he was naturally not as ordinary as he looked. All right, I'll trust you this time, Han Yueli said. 2 figures flew towards the core of the Holy Land. The closer he got to the core of the Holy Land, the denser the spiritual energy became. Chu Fengmian even felt that he could condense the spiritual energy into elixirs with a wave of his hand. At the same time, they encountered many spiritual herbs along the way. Chu Fengmian and Han Yueli collected them along the way. Chu Fengmian only wanted the spiritual herbs that could increase spiritual energy. As for the other spiritual herbs that could heal injuries or have other effects, Chu Fengmian did not want them. He gave them all to Han Yueli. This jade source flower is enough to refine the earth-level middle-grade jade source elixir. A jade source elixir can save a warrior's life as long as he is not dead, even if his spiritual vein is damaged. You don't want it? Seeing Chu Fengmian toss it to Han Yueli without any hesitation, Han Yueli exclaimed in surprise. What are you trying to do? Chu Fengmian tossed it to Han Yueli without any hesitation. To an ordinary martial artist, the jade origin flower was equivalent to their life. It was definitely extremely valuable and could even be considered a priceless treasure. Once it appeared, countless warriors would fight for it. Now that Chu Fengmian gave it away, Han Yueli could not help but ask. It's useless. My cultivation technique is special. I only need spiritual herbs that can increase spiritual energy. As for the rest, I don't want them. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Chu Fengmian naturally knew the value of the jade source flower. If it was sold outside, it could be sold for millions of energy-gathering pills. But now that they were in the Holy Land, it was meaningless to give the jade source flower to Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian had the bloodline of the ancient battle dragon. As long as he was not dead, he could use the power of the bloodline to recover. If even the bloodline of the ancient battle dragon could not be recovered, a jade source flower would be useless. It was better to give it to Han Yueli. What a strange person. Could it be that he is so confident in his strength that he thinks he will never be in danger? Han Yueli looked at Chu Fengmian carefully. After spending some time together, she had a much deeper understanding of Chu Fengmian. The more she learned about him, the more shocked Han Yueli became. Chu Fengmian's knowledge and experience did not seem to be that of a young warrior of 20 years old. There were many spirit medicines that she did not recognize, but Chu Fengmian could identify them at a glance, and even point out their effects. Chu Fengmian, in particular, was extremely calm and steady no matter what, which made him look like he was not a young martial artist at all. That was especially true when Chu Fengmian looked at her with a strange look in his eyes. It was not the same look of admiration or lust that ordinary warriors would have, but rather, a look of nostalgia. Nostalgia? She had never seen Chu Fengmian before, so why would she look at him with such nostalgia? We're not far from Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum. Chu Fengmian suddenly stopped in his tracks. His sudden words interrupted Han Yueli's train of thought. What? Oh, we're already close to Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum? Han Yueli said in surprise. She had been following Chu Fengmian the entire time, and hadn't paid much attention to the road. But now, Chu Fengmian had suddenly stopped and said that they were close to Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum. Could it be that Chu Fengmian had been here before? Han Yueli couldn't help but wonder. She had been following Chu Fengmian the entire time, and hadn't taken any detours. It was almost as if Chu Fengmian knew everything about this holy land. Of course, there was no way she could have known that Chu Fengmian had the Richlush steel, and could sense that they were in the vicinity of Grand Emperor Richlush's mausoleum. The power of the Richlush steel seemed to be on the verge of exploding out. If Chu Fengmian hadn't used the might of the ancient war dragon to suppress the power of the Richlush steel wouldn't have been able to escape. Most likely, the Richlush tombstone had already been broken through. Chapter 172. The secret of the Richlush steel being in Chu Fengmian's possession. Most likely, only the Cheng clan and family Chu knew about it. These two great clans should not have spread the news yet. However, the disciples of the Cheng clan and the Chu clan in the Holy Land must have already received the news. The Cheng clan and the Chu clan were both part of the four great clans of the Wuxing Academy. Their disciples all cultivated in the Holy Land. According to Chu Fengmian's memories, the Chen clan and family Chu each had a conclave disciple who practiced cultivation in the Holy Land. There was Chen Tiankong from the Chen clan, and Chu Ning from family Chu. Those two conclave disciples were ranked 7th and 8th in the inner sect of the Martial Victory Institute, respectively. Although they weren't at the top, the fact that they were conclave disciples meant that they were far more important than the inner sect disciples. In fact, their positions in the Martial Victory Institute were similar to that of the inner sect elders, perhaps even higher. After all, it was highly likely that conclave disciples would become vice deans in the future. Therefore, the inner sect elders treated them with the utmost respect. It wasn't just because of their status, but also because of their strength. In fact, they were no weaker than the junior house lord of the Candle Flame Society, young Sir Flame South. As of now, Chu Fengmian had 3 enemies, and any one of them was someone he couldn't possibly deal with. Power. I'm not strong enough yet. For the first time, Chu Fengmian felt a thirst for power, and knew that he needed to get stronger as quickly as possible. That way, he would be able to make a move in the fight for Grand Emperor Richlush's treasure. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered, and he lowered his voice. Someone's coming. 3 peak Divine Sea experts, and 1 in the 3rd level of the Wind Rider realm. Chu Fengmian's divine sense swept out and suddenly found 4 figures in his divine sense. These 4 figures seemed to be chasing after some kind of existence. Chu Fengmian's consciousness swept over again, but he suddenly discovered a huge monster. What's that? A flood dragon? Chu Fengmian suddenly said when he sensed a faint dragon might from the huge creature. There's actually someone chasing after this flood dragon? A flood dragon? Han Yueli suddenly spoke up after hearing Chu Fengmian's words. It's said that there are countless powerful beasts in the Holy Land. They are all attracted by the rich spiritual qi in the Holy Land. I didn't expect there to be a Jiao dragon here. The dragon was a divine beast that had not appeared for 1,000 years. The Jiao dragon was a demonic beast that possessed the bloodline of the real dragon, such as the dark water mystical snake that Chu Fengmian had killed. If his strength could reach the wind-controlling realm, he might be able to transform into a Jiao dragon. Chu Fengmian turned his eyes and stared in the direction of the flood dragon. No matter how thin the flood dragon's bloodline was, it did indeed have the bloodline of a true dragon. Chu Fengmian was currently cultivating the battle dragon chant, and he was condensing the dragon's blood. If Chu Fengmian could obtain the flood dragon's blood or even its dragon core, it would definitely be of great use to him. Not to mention Chu Fengmian's cultivation of the dragon battle formula, it was extremely beneficial to any venerable warrior. The flood dragon's blood could also strengthen one's body. A true body-refining grandmaster needed to bathe in spiritual herbs and blood every day. The best spiritual herb was the dragon's blood. The Jiao dragon's dragon core contained extremely pure spiritual energy. A single core of the Jiao dragon was equivalent to the spiritual energy of millions of energy-gathering pills. If he could obtain the dragon core in the flood dragon's blood, Chu Fengmian was confident that his strength could be further improved and even reach the Divine Sea realm. In fact, during his time in the Holy Land, Chu Fengmian had accumulated a lot of spiritual herbs, which were enough to transform into spiritual energy to reach the Divine Sea realm. However, what he lacked the most was an opportunity. The appearance of the flood dragon gave Chu Fengmian an opportunity. Chu Fengmian had to obtain the dragon core of the flood dragon to reach the Divine Sea realm. In the Holy Land, Chu Fengmian was not completely powerless against a wind-controlling realm warrior. What are you going to do? Han Yueli watched Chu Fengmian stand up suddenly and asked with vigilance. Let's go and have a look. Maybe there's a chance to obtain some dragon blood or even dragon core. Chu Fengmian said. His body flashed as he chased after Han Yueli. When Chu Fengmian chased after Han Yueli, he used Emperor Shi's divine concealment technique to hide his body. Emperor Shi was an extremely powerful existence in the ancient era. When Emperor Shi's divine concealment technique was activated, no one could see through Chu Fengmian's body unless they had reached the divine power realm. After Chu Fengmian hid himself, he also used Emperor Shi's divine concealment technique to hide Han Yueli who was beside him. Two figures had already stealthily closed in on him. Another mysterious technique. What kind of secret does Chu Fengmian have? Han Yueli could sense the power of Emperor Shi's divine concealment technique. This method is enough to make the martial artist of the wind-controlling realm undetectable within 5 feet. If used for a sneak attack. If it was used as a sneak attack within 5 feet, the success rate of a sneak attack could reach up to 90%. This alone was enough to prove the power of Emperor Shi's divine concealment technique. When they got closer, they could see 100 feet long body roaring. It was the Jiao Dragon. Beside the Jiao Dragon, there were 4 warriors who were fighting with the Jiao Dragon. Most of the scales on the Jiao Dragon's body were broken. It looked like it was severely injured. Is that Feng Heyue from the Elis sect? Han Yueli whispered to Chu Fengmian when he saw the wind-controlling realm warrior leading the group. Feng Heyue is a core disciple of the Elis sect. Although he's not as powerful as Prince Yan Nan, he's still a rare genius in victorious Wu country. He's ranked in the top 20 among the countless geniuses in victorious Wu country. As for the other 3, they also cultivate the Elis sect's wind god technique. They should be the elites among the inner disciples of the Elis sect. Their strength is not inferior to mine. It won't be easy for you to snatch the dragon elixir from him. Han Yueli could guess what Chu Fengmian was thinking. With Chu Fengmian's character, he would only do such a thing when he wanted to obtain the dragon elixir. He would secretly follow and wait for an opportunity. With the strength of the 4 of them, they shouldn't be able to force the Jiao Dragon to such an extent. Chu Fengmian's eyes were observing the battle. Chapter 173. Every time the dragon moved, there was a huge burst of spiritual energy that forced the 4 of them back. It could still have such strength even when it was severely injured. If the dragon was at its peak, its strength would be at least at level 7 of the Imperial Wind Realm. It could even be at level 8 or 9 of the Imperial Wind Realm. A demonic beast with such strength was definitely not something that the 4 of them could injure. There must be something fishy about it. Senior Brother Feng, I didn't expect to encounter such an injured flood dragon today. We've really picked up a great bargain. An Elis sect disciple suddenly said. Chu Fengmian was now 100 feet away from them. But in Chu Fengmian's ears, this voice sounded as if it was right next to his ear. It was very clear. After cultivating the battle dragon skill, Chu Fengmian's body was close to that of an ancient battle dragon. His 5 senses had surpassed that of a human. Even a sage could not have such ability. The dragon's blood is enough to help us refine our bodies. In this way, we can use the dragon's blood to break through to the Imperial Wind Realm. Another Elis sect disciple said. His voice was filled with incomparable excitement. A dragon was full of treasures. The dragon's blood was enough to help a martial artist break through, even if they could not get the dragon elixir. To be able to get some dragon's blood was a great opportunity for them. One should know that there might not be a single dragon in the entire victorious Wu country. Moreover, the dragon's strength was extremely strong. Many of the dragons were at the divine power realm. Even a sage would not dare to provoke them. Such a severely injured dragon was a gift from the heavens. It was a fortune that could be picked up from the ground. Don't underestimate the dragon. It still has strength. Let's kill it first. I will only take its dragon elixir. The rest of its flesh and blood will be given to you. Feng Heyue, who was the leader, said. His eyes were filled with greed. The most important part of a dragon was its dragon elixir. If they could get the dragon elixir, the flesh and blood were nothing. His strength could only be ranked in the top 20 among the younger generation of geniuses. But if he could get the dragon elixir, after refining it, it was very likely that he would be able to match up to young noble Yan Nan and the others, or even challenge Ling Tian. A Jiao Dragon's dragon core was enough to be called a great opportunity. Hearing Feng Heyue's promise, the other 3 Elis sect disciples became even more excited. Yes. The 4 figures once again engaged in battle with the serpent dragon. After a few minutes, the flood dragon began to feel that it was losing its strength, and its resistance was becoming weaker and weaker. He seemed to have reached his limit. Roar! The flood dragon roared angrily and turned around, trying to escape in a certain direction. This flood dragon looks like it can't hold on any longer. Are you still not going to help? Hanueli couldn't help but speak up when she saw this scene. From the looks of it, the flood dragon no longer had any strength left and could be killed at any moment. Wasn't this the best time to kill the flood dragon and seize the dragon core? However, Chu Fengmian didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. He just watched everything indifferently and didn't seem to have any intention of taking action. A flood dragon, even if its bloodline isn't pure, is still a dragon. This kind of siege isn't enough to push it to its limit. Chu Fengmian said softly. Dragons were extremely noble creatures. They were born with noble bloodline. Even if they were to die, they wouldn't run away. Even if they were to encounter a life-and-death crisis, they would only choose to fight to the death instead of running away. Although the flood dragon looked like it was running away, Chu Fengmian could tell that it was pretending to be weak. Perhaps it was leading the four wind-resisting realm martial artists to that place, and then suddenly attacking. The flood dragon's intelligence wasn't any lower than a human's. Naturally, it knew some strategies. At this time, if they were to chase after the flood dragon, they wouldn't even know how they died. Senior brother Feng, the flood dragon is trying to escape. An Eola's sect disciple hurriedly shouted. Go after it. Feng Heyue roared. The flood dragon looks like it's at the end of its rope. It must be going back to its lair to make a last stand. There must be countless treasures in its lair. If we can get it, we'll be rich. Feng Heyue shouted excitedly. The serpent's lair was rumored to contain countless treasures in the legends. Thinking of the countless treasures in front of him, Feng Heyue was extremely excited. The other three Eola's sect disciples were no exception. Their faces were filled with excitement. The four of them hurriedly chased after the flood dragon. Let's go too. Chu Fengmian stood up. Just as he was about to leave, his body suddenly stopped. Stop. He hurriedly signaled Hanueli, who was beside him, to stop. Almost at the same time, two auras flew across the sky. It looked like they were chasing after the flood dragon. Sure enough, this flood dragon doesn't seem to be that simple. Feeling the existence of the two auras, Chu Fengmian thought to himself. The owners of the two auras were true experts. They were both at level 5 wind-resisting realm. It looked like the two of them were the ones who had injured the flood dragon. However, it looked like the two of them deliberately let the flood dragon go. That was why the Eola's sect disciples encountered the flood dragon and chased after it. Let's go. You'd better not take any action later. Hide far away. If there's an accident, run away quickly. Chu Fengmian turned back and instructed Hanueli. His body flashed and he followed after them. It was Chu Fengmian's idea to seize the dragon pill. He did not want to implicate others. Hanueli wanted to say something, but gave up in the end. She also followed after Chu Fengmian. Hanueli wanted to refute Chu Fengmian's words. She was also a martial artist at the peak of the Divine Sea realm. Since when did she need to be taken care of and instructed by Chu Fengmian, a martial artist at the body refining realm? However, when she thought of Chu Fengmian's strength, Hanueli had no way to refute. At least from the point that Chu Fengmian could kill Yan Xian, Chu Fengmian's strength was much stronger than Hanueli. Along the way, Chu Fengmian took the lead. Hanueli followed beside him. Unknowingly, Hanueli had become somewhat dependent on Chu Fengmian. No, as a martial artist, how can I rely on others? Especially him. Hanueli's eyes flashed with a trace of haze. Chapter 174. Only when the two auras gradually disappeared into the distance did Chu Fengmian get up and chase after them with Hanueli. The strength of the two figures was not something that the Eola's sect could match. Even though Chu Fengmian was confident in Empress Shi's divine concealment technique, he did not dare to underestimate them. Chu Fengmian stood up and chased after them after they left. The dragon did not escape quickly. It looked like it was unable to escape due to its injuries. However, Chu Fengmian knew that it was just a disguise. With the dragon's remaining strength, it was enough to fight the 4 from the Aeolus sect to the death. The flood dragon ran all the way to a cave and burrowed into it. Senior brother Feng, this should be the dragon's lair. Chase after it. The dragon is running out of strength. Let's kill it and all the treasures on it will be ours. Feng Heyue roared and immediately chased after them. He rushed into the cave, and the 3 people from the Aeolus sect also followed closely behind. Should we chase after it? Han Yueli asked softly. No need. Chu Fengmian looked at the cave and said. A huge amount of spiritual energy was emitted from the cave. What came out after that was a huge flame. Damn it. The dragon is playing tricks. Feng Heyue was the first to rush out of the cave. Most of his clothes were burnt. Clearly, he did not expect the serpent dragon to take the initiative to show weakness and launch a sneak attack. The moment they entered the cave, a flame suddenly appeared and filled the entire cave. The flood dragon's intelligence was no less than that of a human's. He had already set up countless traps in his lair. The moment the 4 people from the Aeolus sect entered, they suddenly activated all the traps within. In an instant, the 4 of them were forced to retreat. If it wasn't for the fact that the flood dragon was severely injured, they would have already died. Other than Feng Heyue, another Aeolus sect disciple also escaped. As for the other 2, they were trapped in the cave by the flood dragon. Senior brother Feng, save me. In the cave, a scream came from the 2 people who were trapped in the cave. Senior brother Feng, what should we do? How can we save the 2 of them? The Aeolus sect disciple asked anxiously when he saw that the other 2 had not come out. If this goes on, the 2 of them will die in the dragon's hands. I know. Feng Heyue said with a cold look in his eyes. Today, even with my strength, I may not be the dragon's opponent. If we save them now, we will be in danger. It doesn't matter if the 2 of them die. Let them die in there and we can exhaust the dragon's strength. Feng Heyue's tone was cold. It was clear that Feng Heyue was not going to save them. The life and death of the 2 Aeolus sect disciples had nothing to do with him. But senior brother Feng, if we return to the sect and people find out about this matter, the 2 of us will be punished by the sect. The Aeolus sect disciple hesitantly. They are all disciples of the Aeolus sect, disciples of the same sect. So what? We are not the ones who killed them. It was the dragon. Feng Heyue looked at the other Aeolus sect disciple and said coldly with killing intent. Only you and I know about this. If the sect finds out, I will not forgive you. What's more, those 2 guys are dead. I don't want any of the treasures on this flood dragon except for its dragon core. I'll give them all to you. I guarantee that you can step into the wind-controlling realm if you get them alone. That Aeolus sect disciple originally wanted to say something. But after hearing Feng Heyue's words, he could not say anything. Indeed, if the other 2 Aeolus sect disciples died, the dragon would belong to him alone. With such hesitation, the Aeolus sect disciple kept quiet. Feng Heyue is ruthless. Hearing Feng Heyue's words, Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. If Feng Heyue took action and entered the cave, there was a high chance that he could save the other 2 Aeolus sect disciples. But if he did so, it would give the dragon a chance to breathe, and they would not be able to kill the dragon today. Between killing the dragon and saving the 2 Aeolus sect disciples, Feng Heyue chose the former. For a martial artist, his own interests were the most important. There was no doubt about it. However, it would be impossible for Feng Heyue to obtain the dragon elixir. Chu Fengmian sneered. The 2 martial artists at the 5th level of the wind-controlling realm that followed them were obviously not just here to watch. That flood dragon is coming out. Boom! Engulfed in flames, the flood dragon suddenly rushed out of the cave. In the dragon's mouth, there was a trace of blood. Apparently, the two Eolus sect disciples had died in the dragon's mouth. Kill him! Seeing the dragon attack, Feng took the initiative to attack. Just now, the flood dragon had already made its final counterattack. Now, the flood dragon really did not have much strength left. Chu Fengmian could feel that the dragon's strength was rapidly depleting. Now, it only had the strength of level 1 Imperial Wind Realm. It was far from being comparable to Feng Huiyue. 7 slashes of the Wind God. Feng Huiyue let out a roar as he slashed out 7 wind blades in a row. The moment the 7 wind blades were slashed out, the dragon immediately sensed them. But with its severely injured body, it was impossible for it to dodge. Bang! 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 The 7 wind blades slashed the dragon's body, causing its already severe injuries to worsen. The dragon is dying. Hurry up and help! Feng Huiyue shouted. The other Eolus sect disciple also slashed out a few wind blades. After a few minutes, the dragon, which was hundreds of feet long, fell to the ground with a sorrowful cry. On top of the dragon's head, a ray of light shone through its flesh. Dragon elixir! Feng Huiyue was overjoyed. The ray of light was the dragon elixir. Chapter 175. A flood dragon was like a huge treasure trove. Now, it had died in front of the two of them. Both Feng Huiyue and the Eolus sect disciple were extremely excited. However, at this moment, a black gas emerged from the dragon's corpse. It split into two and landed on the bodies of Feng Huiyue and the Eolus sect disciple. What is this? Han Yueli asked curiously when he saw this scene. Curse, a curse from the dragon clan's bloodline. Chu Fengmian said. The dragon clan is a clan blessed by the heavens. Their bloodline is extremely noble. Anyone who kills a member of the dragon clan will be cursed. This curse doesn't have much of an effect. However, it has always existed in the warrior's body. It could turn into an inner demon and be triggered when the warrior breaks through. However, this curse is only effective on warriors with weak minds. It has no effect on warriors who have a strong martial heart. Chu Fengmian said. Curse? This kind of secret, I don't think the entire victorious Wu country knows about it. After hearing Chu Fengmian's words, Han Yueli suddenly asked. It was as if Chu Fengmian knew everything. Even the matter of this curse, Chu Fengmian was extremely clear about it. In this world, was there anything that Chu Fengmian didn't know? Han Yueli almost thought that Chu Fengmian was omniscient and omnipotent. How could he know so many things? I've only read a little more ancient books in the past. I've seen it in some ancient books. Chu Fengmian didn't want to explain too much. He had lived for hundreds of years in his previous life and couldn't cultivate. He read all kinds of miscellaneous books and studied all kinds of strange things. Although Chu Fengmian studied how to resolve the effects of the heavenly constitution so that he could cultivate, he also studied a lot of ancient books. However, during his research, Chu Fengmian had also read many ancient books, which was why he had such profound knowledge. However, although he has suffered the curse, I'm afraid Feng Huiyue won't be able to endure the dragon's curse. Chu Fengmian thought to himself. The two hidden auras were clearly unwilling to bear the curse because of it. Therefore, he had intentionally injured the dragon and let it go so that Feng Huiyue and the disciples of the Eolus sect could kill it. Then let the curse be cast on them. Now that the curse had been removed, the two figures should be making their move soon. Chu Fengmian didn't believe that the two figures didn't come for the flood dragon. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. This was a good plan. He did not need to bear the curse and could also obtain the dragon core. In the end, Feng Yi was just making a wedding dress for someone else. Are you still not going to make a move? Feng Huiyue's strength has been depleted by more than half. If he takes advantage of this opportunity to attack, it is very likely that he will snatch the dragon pill. Han Yueli looked at the dragon core, his eyes revealing a look of desire. A dragon elixir from a dragon elixir in the wind-controlling realm was extremely tempting even to some saints, not to mention Han Yueli. Even if she could obtain 1/10 of the dragon elixir, it would be enough for her to break through to the wind-controlling realm. Wait, now is not the time to make a move, Chu Fengmian said, stopping Han Yueli from making a move. Let's wait and see. Someone else will make a move. Someone else? Han Yueli was puzzled, but before he could say anything else, two enormous spiritual energies had already erupted. At the same time, two figures leaped out from the surrounding forest and reached out to grab the dragon. Who is it? Feng Heyue turned his head and roared. Just as he activated the spiritual energy in his body, he was knocked to the ground by one of the figures with a wave of his hand. As for the other Elis sect disciple, he spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell to the ground after one move. One move had killed the Elis sect disciple. Qing Tiankong, Chu Ning. It is the two core disciples of the Wuxing Academy. Seeing the two figures appear, Han Yueli immediately recognized them. There were no more than 5 people in the sacred ground who were at the 5th level of the wind-controlling realm. Naturally, he could recognize them quickly. Qing Tiankong, Chu Ning, it is actually the two of them. Chu Fengmian knew these two names. Previously, Chu Fengmian had thought of these two people and regarded them as one of his biggest threats. Now, they actually appeared. Two martial artists at the 5th level of the wind-controlling realm working together were indeed enough to seriously injure the flood dragon. Could it be that Chu Fengmian had already discovered their existence from the beginning? Han Yueli looked at Chu Fengmian and thought in disbelief. Thinking of Chu Fengmian's abnormal behavior, it seemed that he had already discovered the others. These two people were experts at the 5th level of the wind-controlling realm. Even Feng Yu did not notice them, but Chu Fengmian had already discovered them. How terrifying was this person? While Han Yueli was still pondering, the two figures had already appeared in the sky and looked down at Feng Yu on the ground. Qing Tiankong appeared and laughed. Brother Chu, your plan is really good. There is really a piece of trash helping us to remove the curse. Ha ha ha, although the curse is nothing, it is still a problem. Since there is someone who can help the two of us, we naturally do not have to do it ourselves. Chu Ning, who was standing by the side, laughed out loud as he looked at Feng Heyue with a mocking gaze. The trap that the two of them had set up was actually hooked by someone. Qing Tiankong, Chu Ning, it was actually the two of you who launched a sneak attack. Are you saying that the two of you want to snatch the flood dragon? Feng Yu asked angrily. How dare you snatch something from the Elis sect? Aren't the two of you afraid of being hunted down by the Elis sect? What is the Elis sect? The two of us will kill you today. This flood dragon was intentionally released by the two of us. Otherwise, do you think that you would be so lucky to encounter a flood dragon? Qing Tiankong said disdainfully. Feng Yu, don't resist. Even if you go all out, you are not a match for the two of us in 3 moves. Moreover, your spiritual energy is exhausted now. If you are willing to kneel down, destroy your cultivation and become our servant, we can consider sparing your life today. Chu Ning also revealed a sinister smile and laughed. Damn it. Chapter 176. Even if I die today, I won't let the two of you get what you want. Feng Heyue roared furiously as he rushed up to the sky. As he waved his hands, a strong gust of wind started to gather. In the sky, the gust of wind turned into a huge wind spirit sword and slashed towards the two of them. A mayfly trying to shake a tree. Don't overestimate yourself. Chu Ning sneered when he saw Feng Heyue's attack. He moved his body and appeared in front of the wind spirit sword. He clenched his right fist and punched out. Crack! With a crisp sound, the wind spirit greatsword suddenly shattered into pieces and fell to the ground. The wind spirit giant sword formed by Feng Heyue's full power was destroyed by Chu Ning with a single punch. When the wind spirit sword shattered, the recoil hit Feng Heyue's body, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Feng Heyue's body started to sway. If he wasn't struggling to support himself, he would have collapsed. What terrifying strength! Chu Ning is indeed a core disciple of Wuxing Academy. He is the strongest among the younger generation of family Chu. Just one punch is enough to break Feng Hui's attack. Han Yueli, who was at the side, said in shock. Feng Hui wasn't an unknown martial artist. He was one of the top 3 among the younger generation of disciples in the Eelis sect. He was one of the top 20 geniuses in the entire Wuxing nation. Even a peerless genius like him couldn't withstand a single blow from Chu Ning. How powerful must Chu Ning be to be able to do that? Although Chu Ning is strong, he is only able to do this because he is opportunistic. Chu Fengmian said. Chu Ning was indeed much stronger than Feng Hui. However, it was still impossible for him to defeat Feng Hui with a single blow. The reason why Feng Hui was defeated so miserably was mainly because of Feng Hui. He had already been entangled with the dragon earlier. In addition, he was ambushed by the dragon and lost half of his strength. That was why he was defeated so miserably. He couldn't even block a single attack from Chu Meng. Although there was a reason for this, Chu Ning's strength could not be underestimated. The strength of his fist was close to the 8th level of the body refinement realm, and this was not even Chu Ning's full strength. Looks like Feng Hui can't hold on any longer. It's time to make a move. Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed coldly. Meeting Cheng Tiankong and Chu Ning was out of Chu Fengmian's expectations. However, the appearance of these two people made Chu Fengmian even more determined to snatch the dragon core. These two were definitely Chu Fengmian's greatest enemies in the Holy Land. The two of them knew that Chu Fengmian had the rich lush steel, and therefore, it was only natural that they would try to kill him. If the two of them were to obtain the Flood Dragon's corpse, especially the dragon core, then Chu Fengmian would be in even greater trouble. If the two of them obtained this dragon core, their strength might even reach Ling Tian's level. At that time, it would definitely be a huge problem. No matter what, Chu Fengmian had to get the dragon core. He couldn't allow it to fall into the hands of these two people. Chu Fengmian's body pulsed with spiritual power as he prepared to make a move at a moment's notice. "What are you doing?" Han Yueli asked, visibly startled by Chu Fengmian's actions. "The dragon seizing pill," Chu Fengmian said calmly. "The dragon seizing pill? The dragon seizing pill? Are you crazy? You want to snatch the dragon core from these two freaks?" Han Yueli said in disbelief. If he had just snatched the dragon core from Feng Hui, he might have had a chance. But now, the dragon core was in the hands of Cheng Tiankong and Chu Ning. These two were invincible in the Holy Land, and when they joined forces, the other experts in the Holy Land would have no choice but to back down. Snatching the dragon core from 2 5th-level wind control realm experts wasn't just arrogance. It was madness. In fact, it was suicide. If we run into any danger, you run. Don't worry about me. Chu Fengmian said calmly. Chu Fengmian was taking a huge gamble, and considering how dangerous it was understandable that Han Yueli didn't want to get involved. But riches and honor came with risk. If there was good fortune, one had to fight for it. Chu Fengmian had reached his current level of strength through numerous deadly battles, and numerous dangerous situations. He was now completely focused and no longer spoke. Instead, he focused all his attention on the Flood Dragon's corpse in front of him. He was ready to make a move at a moment's notice. I might as well kill this piece of trash. Off to the side, Chu Ning didn't give Feng Hui a chance to do anything. Chuckling viciously, Chu Ning unleashed a fist strike that killed Feng Hui. Then, he looked over at the head of the Flood Dragon. If we can get the dragon core, then the treasure storehouse of Grand Emperor Richlush will be ours. Chu Ning's eyes flickered with greed. It's too bad we didn't get the Richlush steel. Instead, it fell into the hands of that brat Chu Fengmian. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Don't worry about it, Cheng Tiankong said. I heard that Chu Fengmian was one of the participants in the Holy Land entrance examination. He definitely had something to do with the changes in Grand Emperor Richlush's tomb. Cheng Tiankong chuckled coldly. Once we assimilate this dragon core, we'll kill that brat and get the Richlush steel. Then we'll inherit Grand Emperor Richlush's treasure trove. Ling Tian is nothing compared to us. Once we get back to the Institute, we'll kill him. Let's go get the dragon core. All right. With that, Chu Ning walked over to the corpse of the flood dragon, pulled out a saber, and cut open its skull. Beneath the skull, a gigantic demonic core the size of a human head appeared. It was a demon core that contained the purest form of dragon might. Dragon core. This was the dragon core of this flood dragon. The spiritual power in this dragon core is immense. It's probably worth tens of millions of energy convergence pills. Chu Ning could feel the surging spiritual energy in the dragon elixir and could not help but ask. Energy convergence pills? Comparing an energy convergence pill to a dragon core is like comparing dirt to gold. They're on completely different levels. Qing Tiankong said with a smile after hearing Chu Ning's words. If you took that dragon core out, you could probably sell it for hundreds of millions of energy convergence pills. Maybe even billions. But even then, I doubt anyone would be willing to sell it. That dragon core is very useful to sages. It can purify one's bloodline, and could even push one's bloodline to the next level. Chapter 177. That's right. Let's take out the dragon core first. Chu Ning said as he walked towards the dragon. Just when he was about to take out the dragon core. Roar! A dragon's roar suddenly rang out. This sudden dragon's roar stunned Chu Fengmian, who was about to make a move. Could this flood dragon be resurrected? Chu Fengmian could see that this flood dragon was already dead. Even his head had been cracked open. How could he still be alive? Where did this dragon's roar come from? Be careful. Retreat. Chu Ning and Qing Tiankong both shouted at the same time and hurriedly retreated. Under this dragon's roar, a huge amount of spiritual energy suddenly burst out. On the body of that flood dragon, an identical flood dragon suddenly appeared. This dragon's golden scales flickered. It looked as if it was not injured at all and suddenly came back to life. With an angry roar, it rushed towards Chu Ning and Qing Tiankong. Immortal dragon soul? Chu Fengmian noticed that although this dragon's appearance was exactly the same as the dragon's corpse, there was no vitality. The dragon in front of them was actually a dragon soul. It was the dragon soul of the dragon that had just died. A true dragon would rather die than be destroyed. This dragon, even if it died, would not allow others to desecrate its body. It was actually fighting with its dragon soul. Rising Dragon Path. Doomsday Rising Dragon. Seeing the spiritual energy erupting from the dragon soul, Chu Fengmian was shocked. This move, Doomsday Rising Dragon, was the most powerful move of the True Dragon Clan. It was a terrifying move that the True Dragon Clan would only use when they were on the verge of death. This move would not only kill the dragon, but also crush the true dragon's soul. It was a real doomsday move. Now it was no wonder that the dragon did not resist with all its might. It actually planned to use its dragon soul to use this move. Retreat. This dragon soul is planning to make a final resistance. Doomsday Rising Dragon. Chu Ning hurriedly shouted. The might of this move, Doomsday Rising Dragon, was recorded in countless ancient books. It was said that a true dragon of the wind-controlling realm had once killed a saint with this move, Doomsday Rising Dragon. This kind of terrifying power, even if it was unleashed by a dragon soul, Chu Ning would not dare to be careless. Chu Ning and Qing Tiankong retreated almost at the same time. The spiritual power in their bodies also burst out, turning into a barrier, blocking in front of them. He was prepared to block this Doomsday Rising Dragon. Roar! 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 3 consecutive dragon roars rang out. The dragon's soul flew out and soared into the sky with a loud rumble. Suddenly, the entire world was filled with a terrifying dragon's might. Doomsday Rising Dragon. Rumble! An extremely powerful wave of spirit energy exploded out, and countless traces of spirit energy collided. This was the True Dragon Clan's most terrifying attack, its ultimate killing move. After the Doomsday Rising Dragon was unleashed, the entire dragon soul was shattered. Once the dragon ascended, the dragon soul would shatter. No matter how powerful the technique was, there was no way to save this Jiao dragon. The violent explosion swept across the surrounding 100 feet. This was still the distance where the power was compressed to a point. If all of it exploded out, the surrounding 1,000 feet would be affected. However, the more it was compressed, the stronger the power of the explosion within the 100 feet was. Chu Ning and Chen Tiankong, who were in the center of the explosion, couldn't help but spit out a few mouthfuls of blood. After taking the Doomsday Rising Dragon head-on, the two of them were already seriously injured. If the two of them weren't strong enough to be prepared, this Doomsday Rising Dragon would have been enough to kill them. It's a pity that this Doomsday Rising Dragon was unleashed by the Dragon Soul, but it has a body. The power of this Doomsday Rising Dragon can be twice as strong. It's very likely to kill the two of them. Chu Fengmian thought in his heart. If there was a chance to kill the two of them, it would be excellent news for Chu Fengmian. But even so, this Doomsday Rising Dragon gave Chu Fengmian an excellent opportunity. A good opportunity for Chu Fengmian to seize the Dragon Core. Taking advantage of the time when Chen Tiankong and Chu Ning were still dispelling the effects of the Doomsday Rising Dragon, his figure suddenly turned into an illusionary figure with a flicker as he dashed toward the body of the serpent. In the blink of an eye, Chu Fengmian's figure had already reached the side of the Flood Dragon's body. With a grab of his hand, the head-sized Dragon Core was already in Chu Fengmian's hand. "Who is it? Get out!" Seeing that the Dragon Core was seized, Chen Tiankong and Chu Ning almost instantly burst out with surging spiritual energy at the same time. This surging spiritual energy turned into a spiritual energy storm, sweeping across everything in the surroundings. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's body was swept out by this spiritual energy storm. "It's you! Chu Fengmian." Seeing Chu Fengmian, Chen Tiankong and Chu Ning's faces were not angry, but smiled. It was as if they had encountered a pleasant surprise. "Well, the two of us were planning to look for you, but we didn't expect you to deliver yourself to us. Hand over the Abundant Lush Monument. It's a waste for the Abundant Lush Monument to be in the hands of a piece of trash like you." Chu Ning laughed coldly, then rushed towards Chu Fengmian with a flash of his body. Although Chu Ning was seriously injured, his speed was still shocking, far exceeding Chu Fengmian's expectations. These two were worthy of being the core disciples of the Martial Victory Academy, true geniuses. Even after being hit by the Doomsday Rising Dragon, they still had such terrifying strength. "I heard that you humiliated our family Chu in the Martial Victory Academy. Today, I'll beat you to death and hang your corpse in front of the Academy's gates for 3 days. It'll serve as a warning to others of the consequences of provoking our family Chu." Chu Ning's face revealed a sinister sneer as he threw a punch at Chu Fengmian. "Is that so? You want to get the Abundant Lush Monument? Let's see if you have what it takes." Chu Fengmian replied with a cold laugh. His figure flashed, turned into a phantom, and quickly fled into the distance. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, he was far from being able to fight against these two geniuses. Chu Fengmian's goal was to get the Dragon Core. After getting the Dragon Core, he used all his strength to escape. Once Chu Fengmian refined the Dragon Core and stepped into the Divine Sea Realm, he would return to fight with these two. Trying to escape? Chu Fengmian's figure flashed continuously. Heaven Sealing Divine Scroll, Seal. A huge scroll suddenly appeared in Chen Tiankong's hand. The scroll seemed to have enclosed everything in its surroundings. The entire space was sealed. What? Chu Fengmian's expression changed drastically when the surrounding space was sealed off. Chen Tiankong actually had a spiritual weapon that could seal off space. Chapter 178. I never would have guessed that you'd take the initiative to come knocking on my door. Sadly for you, I bet you never would have guessed that I have a spirit item that can seal off space. Originally, I had countless plans to lure you out. But now that you've come knocking on my door, the rich lush steel is ours. Chen Tiankong laughed heartily at Chu Fengmian. he and Chu Ning had come up with countless schemes to get Chu Fengmian's rich lush steel. Whoever got the rich lush steel would gain access to the true treasures of Grand Emperor Rich Lush. After all, the greatest treasure trove of Grand Emperor Rich Lush wasn't the wealth contained within. It was the legacy. The legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush. As the founder of the Kingdom of Martial Victories, Grand Emperor Rich Lush was even stronger than a sage. Therefore, whoever got his legacy would be the ultimate treasure trove. The Rich Lush steel was related to the legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush. The Rich Lush steel is nothing more than a waste of a heavenly treasure. Hand it over. A piece of trash like you doesn't qualify to inherit the legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush. Chu Ning roared, unleashing a fist strike that shook everything in its path. It was a fist strike that was so terrifying that it was almost on the level of the God Power level. God Power sages could gain enlightenment of the magical laws of space, and could shatter space itself. Although Chu Ning's fist strike wasn't powerful enough to shatter space itself, it was still powerful enough to cause space itself to tremble. In other words, he was already close to the peak of the wind control realm. With that level of strength, he could easily pass 50 levels on the heavenspan path. Phantom Shadow. Chu Fengmian knew that there was no way he could face this fist strike head-on. His figure flashed as he activated the phantom body technique and headed towards the forest below. He was prepared to hide in the forest. "It's useless," Cheng Tiankong said. "The heaven-sealing God chart has sealed this place. Unless you're at the peak of the wind control realm, you won't be able to escape." Cheng Tiankong laughed heartily at Chu Fengmian's actions. "Be a good boy and hand over the Rich Lush steel. If you make me feel better, I might spare your life, or even make you our servant." Cheng Tiankong's words were spoken very quickly, and each one of them seemed to contain terrifying spiritual power that would cause anyone who heard them to tremble. Heavenly Thunder Drum. Cheng Tiankong's cultivation technique was an extremely special sound technique. When he spoke, his words contained spiritual energy. The slightest bit of carelessness could possibly shatter one's mind and cause one to lose one's martial heart. From then on, one's cultivation level would no longer be able to advance any further. Dragon fights in the wild. Facing the attack of the thunder drum, Chu Fengmian roared. A pure dragon roar came out of Chu Fengmian's mouth. This dragon roar was extremely pure, many times purer than the dragon roar of the flood dragon. With this dragon roar, the damage caused by the thunder drum was instantly shattered. What kind of cultivation technique is this kid cultivating? He actually managed to break my heavenly thunder drum with a single dragon roar. Cheng Tiankong looked at Chu Fengmian and frowned. His eyes revealed a bit of killing intent. This brat's method of cultivation is simply my nemesis. If I don't kill him today, when he grows up, he will sooner or later become a great threat to me. Brother Cheng, don't worry. This brat will definitely die today. Chu Ning sneered at the side. His figure moved, turning into an escape light as he chased after Chu Fengmian below. In a few breaths, Chu Ning's figure had already caught up to Chu Fengmian. In terms of movement technique, Chu Ning's movement technique was definitely not comparable to Chu Fengmian's phantom movement technique. However, in this small area of the sealed heaven divine diagram, Chu Fengmian's movement technique could not be fully displayed. In such a small area, even if Chu Fengmian wanted to escape, he would still be caught by Chu Ning. Tyrant Fist. Chu Ning's spiritual energy condensed on his fist as he suddenly punched out. This Tyrant Fist was one of the martial techniques that family Chu's disciples must cultivate. Chu Beigu had also used this technique before. However, compared to the current Chu Ning, the power of these two punches could be said to be completely different. This Tyrant Fist was executed by Chu Ning. The fist wind was filled with the intent of an overlord. A fist pressure suddenly enveloped Chu Fengmian's body. What a terrifying fist. Is this the true strength of a family Chu's disciple? Chu Fengmian looked at Chu Ning and his expression changed. The family Chu could be considered one of the 4 great clans of the Martial Victory Academy. Naturally, they relied on more than just their foundation. Compared to Chu Ning, Chu Beigu and Chu Qianjue were nothing. Scarlet Flame. Chu Fengmian roared in his heart as the scarlet flame sword appeared in his hand. He fiercely slashed at the incoming fist. Facing Chu Ning, Chu Fengmian did not dare to hold back. The scarlet flame sword's edge condensed a flame. As the sword energy slashed out, it looked like a sea of fire. Although the sea of fire was at a disadvantage when it collided with Chu Ning's fist, it temporarily blocked Chu Ning's fist. This allowed Chu Fengmian to find an opportunity to dodge the fist. Scarlet flame sword? Chu Ning looked at the longsword in Chu Fengmian's hand and his eyes were filled with surprise. You have quite a few good things on you. The scarlet flame sword, one of the 3 great divine weapons of the Candle Flame sect, is also in your hands. But soon, when I kill you, this scarlet flame sword will belong to us. Chu Meng laughed heartily and sent another punch flying over. Chu Ning's spiritual energy was already at its peak. Punch after punch, he fiercely smashed towards Chu Fengmian. Not good. Han Yueli, who was nearby, was shocked when she saw this scene. Under this kind of pursuit, she was afraid that Chu Fengmian would not be able to last long before he was defeated. Her cry of surprise instantly attracted Chu Ning's attention. There's actually someone else? Looks like you're with this brat. Well then, since this brat is running away, I'll kill you first. Chu Ning laughed loudly and ignored Chu Fengmian. His figure moved and rushed towards Han Yueli. Die for me. In an instant, another punch was thrown. This punch was comparable to the power of the 8th level of the Spirit Sea realm. It was not something that Han Yueli could withstand. Oh no! Chu Fengmian's eyes changed. Han Yueli was also sealed in this space by the heavenly sealing diagram and could not leave. Now, Chu Fengmian could not withstand this punch and could only run away. It was even more impossible for Han Yueli to withstand it. The peak of sword intent, the infinite sword. Chu Fengmian coldly spat out these 2 words. The aura on his body was completely different from before. This was the strongest sword intent that Chu Fengmian could display. Chapter 179. In an instant, the tip of the sword slashed towards Chu Meng. This sword slashed towards Chu Meng almost soundlessly. The tip of the sword was sharp to the extreme. It was a real killing sword. Chu Fengmian had been waiting for an opportunity to kill with a single strike before using this sword. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, the strongest sword intent he could summon was this sword. Although Chu Fengmian had the divine pulse, his spiritual energy was almost endless. This sword not only consumed spiritual energy, but also the sword intent that Chu Fengmian cultivated in his previous life. This sword was enough to exhaust Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was waiting for an opportunity to kill Chu Ning before using this sword. But now that Han Yueli was in danger, Chu Fengmian could not wait any longer. This sword burst out ahead of time. Not good. Chu Ning was also a peerless genius, so he immediately felt the threat of this sword. He hurriedly retracted his fist, and then punched towards the sword. Previously, in front of the Tong Tian path, Chu Fengmian used this sword to injure Jiling Tian. The storm-like sword aura slashed towards Chu Ning's body. Each of these sword aura was incomparably sharp. Let me help you. Mysterious spatial gate. Qing Tiankong also roared and activated the divine map. A mysterious spatial gate was condensed and blocked in front of Chu Ning. Hiss! 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 Thousands of sword chi slashed at the mysterious spatial gate. The mysterious spatial gate that was formed was riddled with holes and shattered in an instant. The most powerful sword aura slashed towards Chu Ning's hand. Swoosh! A finger suddenly flew out. Under Chu Fengmian's sword, one of Chu Ning's fingers was cut off. Seeing this result, Chu Fengmian's heart went cold. Originally, he planned to at least injure Chu Ning with this sword. Chu Fengmian was not satisfied with just cutting off a finger. However, taking advantage of the moment when the sword was released, he was able to temporarily block Chu Ning and Qing Tiankong's attacks. His figure flashed as he grabbed Han Yueli and quickly fled. Run! 2 figures were moving through the forest at high speed. Damn it! Damn it! A piece of trash actually cut off one of my fingers. Chu Ning roared hysterically. That damn trash. I want him dead. Even if he died countless times over. It could not offset Marshall's anger. I want him to taste all the tortures of the 9 regions. Although it wasn't difficult to recover a severed finger, Chu Ning was different. He was a body-tempering martial artist. All of his power came from his body. His body had been soaked in a lot of spiritual herbs in order to be as strong as it was now. Even if his severed finger had been regenerated by using spiritual herbs, it would have been impossible for it to grow back. Even Chu Ning would not be able to recover to his current strength. Such a loss would definitely cause Chu Ning to feel extremely pained. Not to mention that his finger was cut off by a body-tempering realm martial artist. This was an insult to his heart. That was why he was so hysterical. Brother Chu, don't worry. The surrounding few miles have been isolated by the sealed Heaven Divine map. Even if this kid escapes, he won't be able to escape. Cheng Tiankong said from the side. His heart was also extremely shocked. That sword strike just now had even broken his spatial profound gate. And this was only Chu Fengmian's body-tempering realm. If Chu Fengmian stepped into the Divine Sea realm or even the wind-controlling realm, who could block that sword just now? This kid. He's going to die. Cheng Tiankong's eyes flashed with killing intent. The two of them once again chased in the direction Chu Fengmian escaped in. Damn it, this sealed Heaven Divine map is really troublesome. The surrounding few miles of space are all sealed. Chu Fengmian brought Han Yueli to the edge and was blocked by a transparent spatial barrier. Chu Fengmian could feel that this spatial barrier could not be broken unless it was an attack that reached the peak of the wind-controlling realm. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it was impossible to break it. What made him even more anxious was that Chu Fengmian could already feel that Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong had already caught up to him. If the two of them caught up, Chu Fengmian would have no way to force them back. The time that this sword bought was already Chu Fengmian's last chance. This barrier can't be broken. Han Yueli also felt the spatial barrier in front of him and could not help but ask. Of course, this barrier is condensed by Cheng Tiankong using all his strength to activate the sealed Heaven Divine map. Unless the strength of the peak of the body-tempering realm reaches the full strength of the attack, it is impossible to tear the barrier apart. Chu Fengmian said anxiously. Now, even if he tried his best, he could not think of a way to break this barrier. Suddenly, Han Yueli, who was beside him, hesitated for a moment and said, "If I have a way to break this barrier, can you take me away?" "You have a way?" Chu Fengmian was shocked. Even he had no way to break this barrier. How could Han Yueli have a way? Chu Fengmian still wanted to say something, but Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong were almost catching up. This made Chu Fengmian have no time to continue asking. "If you can break this barrier, I promise to take you away," Chu Fengmian said resolutely. Now, he had no other way. He could only treat a dead horse as a living horse and pin his hopes on Han Yueli. "Okay, it's a deal." Han Yueli let out a soft shout. However, from her body, an ice-cold chill suddenly burst forth. Profound cold body? Looking at the chill on Han Yueli's body, Chu Fengmian suddenly thought of something. Profound cold body and ice lotus sword technique. Could it be that Han Yueli is going to? Before Chu Fengmian's voice died away, Han Yueli's spiritual power had begun to rise crazily. First level of the wind-controlling realm, second level of the wind-controlling realm, third level of the wind-controlling realm. Almost in an instant, Han Yueli's realm had risen to the 9th level of the wind-controlling realm. She was only one step away from the peak of the wind-controlling realm. This was already her limit. "Break!" Han Yueli shouted. The sword in her hand had already fallen. Under the tip of this sword, there is a bone-piercing chill. Even Chu Fengmian, who is standing beside Han Yueli, can feel the terrifying chill. He is so cold that he is shivering. The absolute sword of icy love. I didn't expect to see this move today. Chapter 180. 10,000 years ago, Chu Fengmian had seen this move before. After this move, a beautiful woman had died in front of Chu Fengmian. Back then, the 7 great sects had joined forces to set up a trap to kill the Lord of the Sword Dao. Many of Chu Fengmian's senior brothers and sisters had been hunted down by the 7 great sections. The one who had led Chu Fengmian to escape was his 4th senior sister. Faced with the pursuit of the 7 great sects experts, his 4th senior sister had risked her life to fight back. She had used the absolute sword of frozen love to kill several of the 7 great sects experts. The absolute sword of frozen love was the final and most powerful move of the Ice Lotus sword art. It was no wonder that Chu Fengmian felt a sense of familiarity when he looked at Han Yueli. Han Yueli was actually the same sword technique that Chu Fengmian's 4th senior sister had cultivated. Moreover, the two of them both possessed the profound cold body. The Ice Lotus sword art was created by Chu Fengmian's 4th senior sister, and now it had been passed down. The absolute sword of frozen love was so powerful that it could kill an opponent across a great realm. However, it could only be used once. No matter how strong the opponent was, the cold would enter their body. They would no longer be able to release spiritual energy, and the cold would gradually corrode their insides. In the end, they would die from the cold. Back then, his 4th senior sister had used this move to buy time for Chu Fengmian to escape. Run! Han Yueli's words pulled Chu Fengmian out of his memories. In front of him, a hole the size of a person had been torn open in the space barrier. This gap was still gradually shrinking, and it would quickly close up again. Phantom! Chu Fengmian grabbed Han Yueli and with a movement technique, he directly passed through the gap. The barrier of the sealed heaven divine chart was broken. Cheng Tiankong frowned as he gave chase. What? These 2 brats have the ability to break the sealed heaven divine chart? Chu Ning's expression became even more ferocious. He had to avenge his severed finger today, not to mention that Chu Fengmian had the abundant lush steel. Chase them! Even if this brat has the ability to break the sealed heaven divine chart, he must have paid a great price. Today, we must kill him. Chu Meng let out a furious roar as his entire body turned red. This was a sign of blood congestion. Chu Meng had already unleashed all the power in his body to the extreme. He was trying to catch up to Fengmian. Chu Fengmian took Han Yueli and fled. Chu Neng and Cheng Tiankong's figures. No, if this continues, they will catch us sooner or later. Although they had escaped from the sealed heaven divine chart, they were still in an extremely dangerous situation. Although Chu Fengmian was in the lead, behind him, Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong were much faster than Chu Fengmian. Now that he had Han Yueli with him, his speed was even slower. Ufs chooses Chu of slush of ses heaven. She. If this continued, in less than 5 minutes, Chu Fengmian would be caught by Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong. How could he get rid of the 2 of them? Xing Xian. In a moment of desperation, Chu Fengmian could only awaken Xing Xian in his mind. At this time, Chu Fengmian could only think of Xing Xian. As long as the blood-slaughtering demon sword had his strength, it would be possible to get rid of the current situation. What's wrong, brat? I just slept for a while. How did you encounter such danger? Xing Xian's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. He observed the situation in front of him and suddenly found the dragon pellet in Chu Fengmian's hand. Oh? A dragon pellet. It seems that you have a great opportunity. If you can refine this dragon pellet, it will be of great benefit to your cultivation of the battle dragon art. Let's put this aside first. Do you have any way to help me get rid of the 2 people behind me? Chu Fengmian hurriedly said. Although he got the dragon pellet, Chu Fengmian's mind wasn't on it. Now, Chu Fengmian couldn't even protect himself. How could he care about the benefits of the dragon pellet? Being able to escape alive was Chu Fengmian's current goal. Get rid of the 2 people behind you. You want to borrow my power? Xing Xian said calmly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. Impossible, Xing Xian replied. My power is sealed by the Azure Yuan, and even if it wasn't, I wouldn't be able to help you. That said, if you want to escape, it won't be too hard. Don't you have the rich lush steel? Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum isn't too far away. If you rush over, you'll be able to get into it. Leave that guy behind. Given your speed, it won't be difficult for you to get into the mausoleum before the two of them catch up. What? Originally, Chu Fengmian was pleasantly surprised when he heard the first two sentences. However, when he heard the last sentence, Chu Fengmian immediately rejected it. Leave the Hanueli behind? Although the Hanueli would slow Chu Fengmian down significantly, he would still be able to escape from the heaven-sealing god chart. After all, he was relying on the power of the Hanueli. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian had promised Hanueli that he would take her with him. There was no way Chu Fengmian would abandon her now. Chu Fengmian couldn't do that either. He would rather die in battle if he had to live like this. Is there really no other way? Chu Fengmian asked, unwilling to give up. There isn't, Xing Xian said coldly. Because of that guy, you've been slowed down by 30%. That should be enough for you to escape. It's just a matter of whether you want to do it or not. As a warrior, your own life is the most important thing. Surely you understand that? Xing Xian said coldly. It wasn't impossible for warriors to kill each other for the sake of personal gain. As for Chu Fengmian and Hanueli, they didn't have much of a relationship. If it were any other cultivator, they probably wouldn't have given it much thought. No. I'm taking her with me. Chu Fengmian said with decisiveness that could sever nails and chop iron. But Chu Fengmian was Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian wouldn't do what others did. Therefore, there was no way he would abandon Hanueli. Without Hanueli, Chu Fengmian would already be in the heaven-sealing god chart, killed by Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong. He wouldn't even have been able to escape. Chapter 181. If Chu Fengmian abandoned Hanueli, he wouldn't be able to cultivate any martial arts. He wouldn't even be able to live with himself. Chu Fengmian's path of martial arts was to protect those he wanted to protect. There has to be another way. Frowning, Chu Fengmian shot toward Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum as fast as he could. As long as Chu Fengmian could move a bit faster, it would be enough. Power. I need to be stronger. I can't die here. In my past life, I had no power, so I had to jump off a cliff and die. In this life, I can't die in such a cowardly way, at the hands of others. Chu Fengmian murmured. Chu Fengmian's eyes were fixed on the Flood Dragon's dragon core. That dragon core was the only thing that could give Chu Fengmian power. Perhaps a Flood Dragon's dragon core could create miracles. Are you planning to consume that dragon core now? Xing Xian asked, his voice changing when he saw the look in Chu Fengmian's eyes. You need to think this through. It might only be a Flood Dragon's dragon core, but it's still a dragon core. A Wingate level dragon core. The power it contains is definitely not something you can handle right now. Perhaps if you swallow it, you will end up exploding and dying because you can't handle the power. Even if you cultivate the Dragon Slayer incantation, there's no way you can consume so much spiritual power in one go. All you have to do is abandon that woman, and you'll be able to escape. Why are you taking such a huge risk? Xing Xian's voice was filled with disbelief. Chu Fengmian obviously had a better choice, so why was he going all out? Was it because he wanted to take that woman away with him? Was it because of a promise? Or was it because she had saved his life? A dragon core contained nearly half of a flood dragon's spiritual power, and it was the purest of spiritual power. Even if he wanted to consume it, he would have to combine it with other spiritual herbs to harmonize the spiritual energy within. Otherwise, even a saint might explode in an instant. That was especially true now that Chu Fengmian was being chased. He didn't even have a safe place to rest. In such an environment, he swallowed and refined the dragon core. It would be suicide. Shut up! Chu Fengmian roared. It was impossible for him to abandon Hanueli. Chu Fengmian had no other choice. Rather than dying in a cowardly manner, it was better to fight to the death. Chu Fengmian didn't even consider the possibility of death. Chu Fengmian opened his mouth and bit down on the dragon core. In a few bites, he swallowed the head-sized dragon core. Immediately after, he activated the battle dragon art and began to refine it. As soon as the dragon pill entered his mouth, Chu Fengmian felt an extremely large amount of spiritual energy gushing into his body almost instantly. This dragon pill was definitely much more effective than any other spiritual medicine in the world. If a wind-controlling realm martial artist were to refine the dragon pill, he would only be able to devour 1,000th of it at most. Any more and he would be likely to be broken by the spiritual power in it. For someone like Chu Fengmian to swallow an entire dragon core in one go was simply an extremely crazy act. Especially now, Chu Fengmian couldn't put all his attention into refining the dragon pill. He still had to continue using the escape light to escape. Multitasking. For martial artists, these were the two most taboo things, but Chu Fengmian was doing them both. How could that kid's spiritual power suddenly increase? Could it be that he swallowed the dragon pill and refined it? Qing Tiankong looked at the sudden change in Chu Fengmian's spiritual power, which was bursting with a dragon's might. It didn't take long for him to figure out what was going on. Damn it! That's a dragon pill. I can't believe that kid actually swallowed it. Chu Ning's eyes were filled with jealousy. A dragon pill was worth hundreds of millions of energy-amassing pills. How could Chu Ning not go crazy when he saw such a fortune being swallowed right in front of him? The dragon pill was supposed to be his, but now it was taken away by Chu Fengmian, and he even swallowed it. Now, even if he killed Chu Fengmian, the dragon pill wouldn't come back. Damn it! I have to kill that kid today. I have to get his Rich Lush steel. Without the dragon pill, the legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush will be ours. Chu Meng roared angrily as he increased his speed to give chase. Xing Xian looked at Chu Fengmian, completely speechless. Only a lunatic would choose to swallow and refine the dragon pill under such circumstances. Such a person, out of the countless people that Xing Xian had met, had never appeared before. That was especially true now. Chu Fengmian didn't even make a sound as he endured the pain of the dragon pill. It was almost as if Chu Fengmian wasn't the one suffering. Chu Fengmian, am not going to die in a place like this. Chu Fengmian's body was already filled with spiritual power, which was battering him madly. The spiritual energy of this dragon core was definitely comparable to the sum of tens of millions of chi-amassing pills, or even more. Even the ancient war dragon shadow in Chu Fengmian's body was not as fast as the power released by the dragon elixir when it was devouring such a huge amount of spiritual power. In just a few moments, Chu Fengmian's body began to swell, as if he were being pumped full of air. In this state, Chu Fengmian could explode at any moment. No, I can't die. I have to live. I won't die. Chu Fengmian roared madly in his heart. He had already pushed the battle dragon technique to the limit, constantly devouring the spiritual power in the dragon pill. His flesh and blood had burst open, and his entire body was dripping with blood. It was unknown how many wounds he had sustained. Chu Fengmian's blood could be seen everywhere he went. Phantom. While enduring the great pain, Chu Fengmian still activated the phantom movement technique once again. His spiritual power had already expanded to the limit. He wanted to see what kind of speed this spiritual power could achieve. Whoosh! A figure flashed. Chu Fengmian's speed was now more than twice as fast as before. This speed was enough to surpass Chu Nang and Qing Tiankong's escape light. Success! Chu Fengmian's eyes finally showed some joy. Chu Fengmian's desperate struggle finally had an effect. Such an escape light was enough to shake off the two people. At the same time, in front of Chu Fengmian, an incomparably huge array appeared. Behind this array was a huge mausoleum. Rather than calling it a mausoleum, it was better to call it a huge cave. Chapter 182. That brat is trying to get into Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum. No! We have to stop him. He has the Rich Lush steel. If he gets it, it'll be a big problem for us. Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong exchanged a few words, then both of them roared at the same time. Burning their quintessence blood, they shot forward at twice the speed they had before. Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong had no intention of letting Chu Feng Mian go. As the distance between them gradually increased, unexpectedly, they were burning their own quintessence blood to increase their power. It was a life and death struggle. Clearly, they were determined to kill Chu Fengmian. The hatred between Chu Fengmian, Chu Ning, and Cheng Tiankong was irreconcilable, and there was no way to resolve it. Chu Fengmian's latent talent was terrifying to the extreme. He was only in the body-tempering realm, yet he had such terrifying power. If they allowed him to get into Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum, he would definitely become a big problem for them. No matter what, he had to kill Chu Fengmian today. Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong were burning their quintessence blood, and their spiritual power was close to the peak of the wind control realm. In just a few moments, they had caught up to Chu Fengmian. I can't believe they're going to chase me to death. Damn it. If I can survive this calamity, I will definitely kill the two of them. I'll destroy the family Chu and the Cheng clan. Chu Fengmian roared, his heart filled with the desire to kill. Even though he had already pushed the spiritual energy of the dragon core to the limit and wanted to escape, Chu Ning and Cheng Tiankong's figures behind him were gradually catching up. They were getting closer and closer, and in the blink of an eye, they would catch up. Stop running, brat. The more you run, the closer you'll be to death. Cheng Tiankong laughed coldly, then blurred into motion to appear in front of Chu Fengmian. Freeze! Cheng Tiankong said, waving the heaven-sealing god chart in his hand. In the blink of an eye, several barriers appeared around Chu Fengmian, trapping him. Heaven-sealing god chart, freeze! Cheng Tiankong held the divine map in his hand and snorted coldly. An incomparably powerful spatial force pressed down on Chu Fengmian. Under the restraint of this spatial energy, Chu Fengmian couldn't even move. Every move he made was under great pressure. Kid, hand over the boundless lush steel. There's no need to struggle anymore. Cheng Tiankong looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. He knew that Chu Fengmian had the rich lush steel, but he had no idea where he had hidden it. In your dreams. Chu Fengmian said coldly. There was no way he would hand over the richly lush steel. Even if Chu Fengmian were to die today, he would never willingly hand it over. Even if he were to die, he would not let his enemy have their way. Brother Cheng, why are you wasting your time with this brat? Let's kill him and refine his soul. Everything he has will be ours. Chu Meng also caught up, his face revealing a hint of viciousness. I'm also interested in his swordsmanship. After killing him, I'll extract his soul and burn it within flames every day. He'll eventually spill the beans. All right. Cheng Tiankong didn't waste any more words. He glanced coldly at Chu Fengmian. I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the rich lush steel, and I'll let you die a quick death. If you want to kill me, then come. Chu Fengmian roared before Cheng Tiankong could finish. He had already pushed the power of the battle dragon technique to the limit. 5 drops of the primordial battle dragon's blood essence were burning. Chu Fengmian's eyes were as red as blood, and his aura was like that of a battle dragon. This Chu Fengmian is truly a monstrous genius. He possesses the strength of a dragon with the body of a human. His draconic aura is even stronger than that of the serpent dragon. Cheng Tiankong looked at Chu Fengmian and muttered to himself. Even the Zhiling Tian of the past could not achieve such a terrifying level of strength. Unfortunately, he's a threat to both our clans. Today, we must kill him. Chu Meng said coldly. As an enemy with terrifying aptitude like Chu Fengmian must be killed. If Chu Fengmian wasn't killed today, there would be endless trouble in the future. Die! Chu Meng moved his feet and approached Chu Fengmian. His whole body was like a raging bull, ramming over. Boom! Chu Meng condensed all of his strength in this collision. one of his fingers was cut off by Chu Fengmian. Now, he was extremely weak. Therefore, he chose to use the strength of his whole body to kill Chu Fengmian. At the same time, Chen Tiankong had also made his move. The divine map of sealing heaven condensed in his hand. Suddenly, the pressure on Chu Fengmian increased tenfold, or even 100-fold. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's whole body was covered, making him unable to move. Chen Tiankong and Chu Meng were both the true core disciples of Wuxing Academy. The two of them together could even fight against Ling Tian. Under the pressure of these two forces, Chu Fengmian's body was about to be torn apart. So what if you're a peerless genius? If you're not strong enough, you'll still die today. Chu Meng roared angrily. The strength of his whole body had been pushed to the limit. Under the wind of his fist, Chu Fengmian's chest was smashed open. If it weren't for the power of the battle dragon art, the current Chu Fengmian would have been killed by the punch just now. Your aptitude is indeed unprecedented, but you made a mistake, which is to provoke our Qing family, Family Chu. The power of a family is not something you can contend against alone. Today, your death is already destined. Qing Tiankong looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Qing family? Family Chu? If I, Chu Fengmian, don't die today, the two of you, your families. I, Chu Fengmian, will kill all of you, not leaving a single one alive. Chu Fengmian's voice was squeezed out from between his teeth. His body was enduring the impact of the dragon pellet's spiritual energy and Chu Meng's fist wind at the same time. Almost every time he opened his mouth, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Chu Meng roared angrily. The spiritual energy in his body had already gathered on his fist, and he suddenly punched out. Azure Tyrant Fist. The terrifying fist wind carried endless power as it smashed towards Chu Fengmian's body. This kid is dead for sure. Chen Tiankong looked at Chu Meng's fist and shook his head. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Chu Fengmian to have any means to block Chu Meng's fist. Boom! Chapter 183. In the face of this fist strike, even a 5th-stage Imperial Wind Realm cultivator would be killed beyond the shadow of a doubt. After all, Chu Ning wasn't the only one attacking. Chen Tiankong was helping him. With the heaven-sealing God chart weighing down on him, even a 5th-stage Imperial Wind Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to stand up to it. Furthermore, Chu Fengmian was far from being in the 5th stage of the Imperial Wind Realm. Given the circumstances, Chu Fengmian would be dead beyond the shadow of a doubt. He's gone. By the time the fist wind dissipated, Chu Fengmian was nowhere to be seen. Only a few bloodstains could be seen on the ground. You must have killed him with a single punch, right? Chen Tiankong scanned the area with his divine sense, and confirmed that there was no trace of Chu Fengmian's aura. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Chu Fengmian to escape. There was only one possibility, and that was that Chu Fengmian had been completely annihilated. There wasn't even a scrap of him left behind. It's too bad we didn't get the rich lush steel. Chu Ning said, sounding a bit frustrated. The kid is dead, so the rich lush steel must have disappeared along with him. Grand Emperor Rich Lush personally created that spirit treasure. Don't worry about it. Compared to the rich lush steel, the legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush is far more important. Chen Tiankong waved his hand dismissively. Now that the rich lush steel is gone, all we have to do is break the warding spells in the mausoleum and get the legacy. Who in this holy land could possibly be a match for us? The legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush is definitely ours. Let's go. Young Sir Flame South and the others are all eyeing the legacy of Grand Emperor Rich Lush covetously. We have to get in before them. Chen Tiankong said. Then, his figure flashed and left. Now that the rich lush steel was gone, there was no reason for him to stay. With that, Chu Ning looked over at Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum, then turned and left. After the two of them left, everything was quiet again. However, the bloodstains on the ground made it clear that a great battle had taken place. Where am I? Chu Fengmian opened his eyes and looked at the unfamiliar surroundings. In this strange space, Chu Fengmian didn't know how long he had been sleeping. Perhaps a week, perhaps a month. It was only when Chu Fengmian woke up that he noticed that everything around him was so unfamiliar. Hanuali's body was also lying beside Chu Fengmian. Her body was now incomparably cold. Chu Fengmian could feel the bone-piercing cold just by lying beside her. Have you escaped? Chu Fengmian looked at the quiet surroundings and whispered to himself. Humph. If you hadn't been lucky enough to awaken at the same time as the richly lush monument, do you really think you would have survived? Xing Xian said unhappily in Chu Fengmian's mind. For a woman, you almost lost your life. How did I end up with a master like you? The rich lush monument? Chu Fengmian naturally ignored Xing Xian's complaints. It was only now that he noticed a stone tablet the size of a person beside him. It was none other than the rich lush monument he had acquired from the ancient dragon turtle. Now, it was fully awake. After Chu Fengmian had entered the Holy Land, the rich lush monument had gradually awakened due to the presence of Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum. As soon as it realized that Chu Fengmian was in danger, it woke up. Chu Fengmian and Hanuali were sucked into the rich lush monument, allowing them to avoid Chu Ning's final fist strike. Are we in Grand Emperor Rich Lush's mausoleum? Chu Fengmian said, looking around and sensing the spiritual power in the area. Unexpectedly, the rich lush monument had taken Chu Fengmian and Hanuali into the mausoleum. My power? Chu Fengmian said, rising to his feet. It was almost as if he were filled with boundless power. Suddenly, his mind trembled as he looked at the illusory image of the ancient war dragon. Shockingly, there were 10 drops of quintessence blood within that illusory image. It seemed that Chu Fengmian hadn't died. Instead, he had absorbed all of the spiritual power within the dragon core. As a result, he now had 5 drops of quintessence blood. It was a blessing in disguise. Thanks to the 10 drops of quintessence blood, Chu Fengmian's cultivation level had reached the first level of the Divine Sea Realm. Although he had only just reached the Divine Sea Realm, Chu Fengmian could sense that his strength had undergone a heaven-shaking, earth-toppling transformation. Chu Fengmian's current strength was probably more than 10 times stronger than before. If he were to run into Chu Ning or Cheng Tiancong again, even if he couldn't defeat them, he would at least be able to fight them and escape unscathed. Now that I'm in the Divine Sea Realm, I should be able to use the rich lush monument. Chu Fengmian's mind trembled. Now that the rich lush monument had awakened, as long as he had enough power, he should be able to use it. Move! Chu Fengmian looked at the rich lush monument. With a thought, he injected a surge of spiritual power into the monument, intending to activate it. However, the rich lush monument remained motionless in its original position. Chu Fengmian's spiritual power was like a stone sinking into the ocean. What's going on? This rich lush monument isn't some trash spiritual artifact. It's a low-grade heaven-grade spiritual artifact. How could you possibly activate it with your current strength? Xing Xian mocked in Chu Fengmian's mind. Only if you're in the wind-controlling realm, and your strength is close to that of a saint, would you be able to activate it. Take a look at your storage pouch. Storage pouch? Chu Fengmian frowned. He opened his storage pouch and looked inside. Inside the pouch, which was originally filled with quintessence-gathering pills, there was an obvious gap. About 1/10 of it was missing. This storage pouch contained 1,000,000 quintessence-gathering pills that Chu Fengmian had obtained from the Northwest Barren Lands. 1/10 of it was equivalent to 100,000 quintessence-gathering pills missing. This is the amount of spiritual power you need to activate the rich lush monument once. Xing Xian's voice rang out again. Although you're the master of the rich lush monument now, you can't activate it with your current strength. Every time you activate the rich lush monument, you'll need 100,000 quintessence-gathering pills to replenish it. So, if you want to use the rich lush monument's power, you'd better think carefully. 100,000 quintessence-gathering pills would be consumed every time it was activated. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.